Family Cultivation. I can improve my magic weapon. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 926 Self-Created Spiritual Treasure. This extremely cold purple crystal shield has a strong defensive power. It can release a large area of extremely cold purple crystal barriers. The maximum defense range can protect a radius of 100 miles. In terms of attack power, it is not as good as other magic weapons of the same level. The advantages and disadvantages are obvious. In terms of array patterns, there are a total of 2,466 array patterns to refine this extremely cold purple crystal shield, which is somewhat difficult to refine. In terms of materials, a variety of 4th level and 5th level materials are required. After killing the 9-headed demon king, Chen Qingyun had a lot of 5th level materials in his hands, enough to meet the refining of 5 or 6 spiritual treasures. Chen Qingyun sorted out the materials in the storage ring, selected scales from Qingguang as materials, and added Wuda's claws and teeth, the fins of the cloud whale beast, etc. There are also 5th level cold crystal jade, blackwood sand, green copper and refined gold, etc., a total of 16 materials. After reading the recipe of the extremely cold purple crystal shield many times, and knowing it all by heart, Chen Qingyun began to retreat and refine the weapon. From smelting, fusion, to shaping, these 3 steps are very simple for Chen Qingyun. With the help of the purple-green divine flame, these materials were quickly smelted and entered the stage of fusion and shaping. Time passed unknowingly, and the progress was very smooth. When it came to the last step of the inscription array, Chen Qingyun took a deep breath, concentrated his energy, and immersed himself in this link. Fortunately, this was the first time to inscribe the array for the middle-grade spiritual treasure, and it was successful at one time. As the last array pattern came to an end, the small shield in front of him flashed with light, revealing the unique breadth of the spiritual treasure. As Chen Qingyun stretched out his hand, the small shield slowly floated to the palm of his hand, spinning around. The temperature emitted by the spiritual treasure array pattern was still there, with a somewhat hot warmth and the smell of metal dissolving. Chen Qingyun felt it carefully, and the quality of the small shield was more than 90%, which was already perfect. It was the first time to refine a middle-grade spiritual treasure, and it was very good to be able to refine it to this level. After refining this spiritual treasure, with a thought, this extremely cold purple crystal shield turned into a person's size, condensing layers of extremely cold purple crystal barriers, wrapping Chen Qingyun in it, causing the temperature around to drop a lot. A light flashed in front of him, and a figure appeared. Chen Qingyun controlled the sea god clone and performed the ice spike technique. More than a dozen fist-sized ice spikes suddenly condensed and hit the purple crystal barrier all at once, and were easily blocked. This purple crystal barrier can condense up to 3 layers, and only 1 layer can resist the attack of a cultivator in the middle stage of the nascent soul. The effect is much better than expected. After testing the effect of this spiritual treasure, Chen Qingyun smiled. Now, I am a 5th level middle-grade weapon refiner, which is already at the top level in the Star Sea. While I still have a lot of materials in my hand, I might as well refine more magic weapons. After thinking for a while, Chen Qingyun took out the Ice Soul Coral Staff and decided to equip it in the hands of the clones. This magic weapon is of the 5th grade middle grade. Chen Qingyun wants to master its refining method, refine a few more, and then equip a few more clones. How to obtain the refining method? This is simple. Analysis. As the order was issued, the Ice Soul Coral Staff in front of him turned into a ball of light, divided into several parts of different sizes, and became the most primitive raw material form. A refining recipe was also presented in front of him. Chen Qingyun took a look and found a total of 12 materials, consisting of 3 to 5 grades, most of which were seen before. The other 2 rare materials, although relatively rare, can be replaced by 5th grade monsters as materials, and can be applied to other situations. After taking a closer look at the recipe, The refining method of this treasure is somewhat similar to that of the trident, which made Chen Qingyun's expression move. A bold idea also emerged in his mind. This trident of the mermaids has something in common with the ice soul coral staff. Why can't I try to integrate them together and invent a new spiritual treasure? The trident can control the power of the ocean, understand the way of water, and can also be used in formation, which can play a great advantage in the sea. The ice soul coral staff also has the function of controlling the power of water, and has the ability of ice attribute, which can summon marine creatures to fight against enemies and purify water quality. If these two magic tools can be combined, what will the effect be? Thinking that the trident can be refined in large quantities later, Chen Qingyun quickly made up his mind and prepared to give it a try. The refining techniques of the 5th level weapon refiner are very exquisite, and he can already try to create his own spiritual treasure and create a magic tool suitable for himself. With this idea in mind and the ability foundation, Chen Qingyun analyzed a trident and obtained the raw materials. The next step is to see how to integrate and refine. In order to increase the success rate, Chen Qingyun continued to read the weapon refining inheritance of the 5 elements sect. In more than a dozen of the refining books, the methods and experience of creating spiritual treasures are mentioned, and the descriptions are very detailed. Just flipping through them for a few days makes people feel that they have benefited a lot. In this way, after more than 3 months of continuous learning, combined with his own abilities and ideas, Chen Qingyun determined the refining plan. In the following year, Chen Qingyun exchanged some 2nd and 3rd level materials from his family, and first tried these materials, tested them, and determined that the idea was feasible. After that, he gradually used higher level materials for refining. After 3 attempts, he finally determined the refining direction and refined a brand new magic weapon in one fell swoop. In the refining room, the purple-blue divine flame was taken back, and a trident-shaped magic weapon with a water-blue body and shining metallic texture appeared in front of him, reaching a height of 9 feet. Before the residual heat on the magic weapon dissipated, Chen Qingyun sacrificed the magic weapon, flew out of the refining room, and flew to the sea. With a light wave of the magic weapon in his hand, he controlled the sea water, forming a series of surging waves, surging forward layer by layer, and in an instant, a huge wave was rolled up. The originally calm sea surface suddenly became turbulent and the waves were surging. Chen Qingyun then expanded his spiritual sense and explored in the sea, finding the traces of several monsters. The monsters active around Xinhai Island need to be cleared from time to time. Chen Qingyun's expression condensed, and he activated the ability of this magic weapon again, and gently pointed to the sea surface. Visible to the naked eye, the seawater within a radius of 1 kilometer continued to surge, and suddenly more than a dozen water columns shot up into the sky, each reaching the size of a house, and washed the 3 monsters out of the sea. The 3 monsters were attacked and roared. They were a crab and 2 shark monsters. Chen Qingyun used the ice attribute power in the magic weapon, unfolded a large piece of frost blade, and rushed forward with a whistle. Just a face-to-face, the 3 monsters were submerged. These were 3 second-level monsters. In Chen Qingyun's hands, they were no different from ants. They just struggled for a while and were torn into pieces by the frost blade. Both water and ice power can be exerted, and Chen Qingyun turned to control another effect. Chapter 927, Ice Soul Trident, Immobilization Magic. Chen Qingyun used the effect of summoning marine creatures, and the waves in the sea surged again, and shrimp soldiers and crab generals emerged from the sea, reaching 50 or 60. The strength of these shrimp soldiers and crab generals can be maintained at the Purple Mansion level at most. Under Chen Qingyun's control, they can join forces to fight the enemy. This ability is to summon marine creatures to fight the enemy. In theory, as long as the mana is sufficient and there is sufficient water attribute power to maintain, you can summon them continuously. As for the use of formations, this magic weapon also has it. In simple terms, it is the ability of the trident integrated into the ice soul coral staff. After trying for a while, Chen Qingyun was quite satisfied and returned to Zhenhai Island. The spiritual treasure in his hand was suspended in front of him. emitting a faint aqua-blue light. Chen Qingyun touched his chin and thought about it. This is a fusion of the trident and the Ice Soul Coral Staff. It should have a new name. Why not call it the Ice Soul Trident? Ice Soul Trident. The experiment was successful. After mastering the refining method, Chen Qingyun returned to the refining room and prepared to continue refining a few more. There are still a lot of materials in hand. After integrating and integrating, he can refine a few more. 3 years have passed in a blink of an eye. In the refining room, Chen listed 4 Ice Soul Tridents, all of which are of the middle grade spiritual treasure level, just right for the Poseidon and Han Bing's several Yuanying clones to equip. In addition, Chen Qingyun refined 3 low-grade spiritual treasures and decomposed them. Strengthening points 11657669. After reaching this strengthening point, Chen Qingyun did not hesitate to directly strengthen the Poseidon and Han Bing clones. The aura of the 2 clones instantly rose to the middle stage of the Yuanying level, which made Chen Qingyun's overall strength improve a lot. The high-level materials on his body have been used up almost, and there are still some formation materials. Chen Qingyun is ready to improve the formation together. The art of formation, for Chen Qingyun, with a solid foundation in refining equipment, is really progressing very fast. In just a few months, he has made rapid progress and has reached the level of the 3rd level middle grade. Yuanying cultivators learn the 100 arts of cultivating immortals, not only have sufficient time, but also improve their comprehension a lot. This is the advantage of high-level cultivators. This retreat has a good harvest. Chen Qingyun thinks about future cultivation, calculates the time, and prepares to go to Xingzong. The exchange time given by Xingzong is at most 10 years. Now 5 years have passed in a blink of an eye. When Chen Qingyun arrived at Xingzong, the news of his visit was immediately heard by Xingzong sect master and other high-level people. Xingzong sect master did not presumptuously disturb him, but just paid attention to Chen Qingyun's actions. Knowing that Chen Qingyun went all the way to the resource hall, he immediately sent a message to several elders of the resource hall to entertain him well. Upon hearing the news, the 3 elders of the resource hall did not dare to neglect him at all, and even worried that they would offend Chen Qingyun by not entertaining him well, so they took the initiative to come out to greet him. Chen Qingyun stated his purpose and wanted to see what resources he was interested in. After an incense stick of time, he exchanged some high-level materials and formation materials, and then left the resource hall. At this time, Xingzong flew towards him and landed in front of Chen Qingyun. "Fellow Taoist Chen, I was looking for you, and you came just in time." As soon as he finished speaking, Xingzong took out a jade box. The Dinying pill was successfully refined last month, with a total of 3 pills. According to the previous agreement, this is the one promised to you. Unexpectedly, there was this surprise on this trip, and Chen Qingyun accepted it without hesitation. "Thank you." Xingzong smiled slightly and asked Chen Qingyun where he was going next, and he could lead the way. Chen Qingyun said frankly that he wanted to go to the library to take a look, and with Xingzong's permission, they browsed in the library together. It must be said that there are quite a few martial arts books collected by Xingzong, with a total of more than 30,000 books. Chen Qingyun focused on reading the Yuanying martial arts. There are 6 parts of the nascent soul techniques of the Xing sect, 1 each for water, wood, gold, earth, and fire, and 1 for magical skills. Among them, the 5 cultivation techniques of the 4 attributes are not as powerful as the nascent soul techniques of the 5 elements sect, such as the Tan Heavy Water technique and the Lionry Rong Haijing. The exchange price of these 4 techniques is about 15 million good deeds each, which is quite expensive, so Chen Qingyun has no interest in exchanging them. Considering that he has a lot of military merits, Chen Qingyun took a fancy to the magical skill called Fixing Zhuxiantu. Fixing Zhuxiantu? Fixing Zhuxiantu? Chen Qingyun became interested and looked through it carefully, and found that the effect of this technique is very simple and powerful, and it can directly fix the cultivators of the same level. The effect of this fixation lasts between 1 and 3 seconds, depending on the strength of the opponent and oneself. and there is room for fluctuation. In a battle at the nascent soul level, 1 or 2 seconds is enough to decide life and death and determine the winner. As long as the immobilization effect lasts for 1 second, it can definitely become a powerful killer. The disadvantage is also very obvious, that is, it consumes a lot of mana when it is used, and it needs to consume 50% of mana. With this disadvantage, if you want to use this immobilization effect, you need to play its due role at a critical moment. Otherwise, if you use an immobilization effect and fail to kill the opponent, and consume 50% of your own mana, then the next battle will be difficult to fight. Realizing this, Chen Qingyun did not feel sorry, but a hint of joy flashed in his eyes. For outsiders, after using the immobilization magic twice, the mana will be exhausted, and they will only become fish on the chopping board. If it is put on oneself, it is not as simple as being able to perform it twice at most. Each clone has its own nascent soul and mana, and can perform it separately. With this point, the advantage comes out. Chen Qingyun looked at the exchange price. This imperial art of immobilization requires 15 million good deeds, which is equivalent to the value of war merit. The price of the skills below the nascent soul stage displayed by Xingzong is actually not expensive, and at the same time, the market price of the skills in the Xinghai cultivation world is also unified. The skills that have reached the nascent soul level are considered to be the secrets of Xingzong. They are the core inheritance and will not be easily revealed to the outside world, let alone exchanged. Chen Qingyun was able to access these skills this time. In fact, it was Xingzong's instruction. During the war, in order to win over Chen Qingyun, Xingzong specially set the price of the nascent soul skills in the sect, so that Chen Qingyun could exchange them. Otherwise, according to the original rules of Xingzong, it is necessary to pass the test set by the sect when the cultivation reaches the late giant stage to access this level of skills. Chen Qingyun is not a true Xingzong cultivator. In order to maintain the sect's rules, Xingzong naturally cannot give away these inherited skills for free. Only those books and classics can be read by Chen Qingyun for free without restrictions. Chapter 928, The Wall of the Sea Boundary, The Way to the Continent. If Chen Qingyun is willing to join the Star Sect, then the skills here can be freely obtained. One family does not speak the same language. In exchange for this body-fixing magic, I need 15 million battle merit points. This nascent soul skill is really expensive. Fortunately, I have enough battle merit points. Chen Qingyun secretly murmured in his heart that it was indeed a bit extravagant to spend 15 million military merits in exchange for one skill. However, this involves practice and can increase your strength, so it's better not to be stingy at this time. Some other resource items are not very attractive to Chen Qingyun. I want to redeem this body-fixing magic. Is it possible to redeem it? Chen Qingyun expressed his need for exchange. Hearing this, the three elders of the library pavilion looked at each other and looked at Xingzong aside. This involves the exchange of nascent soul skills. The three of them actually don't want the skills to be passed on to others, so they are hesitant. Xingzong looked at the jade slip of the kung fu technique in Chen Qingyun's hand, and said with a faint smile, Chen Dao's friendly eyes, I got this technique by chance from the mainland, and it was only recently included in this library. I want you to catch it at a glance. This method is very suitable for your practice. I originally wanted to recommend it to you. You have a keen eye and can spot pearls at a glance. It seems that you are destined to do so. This immortal technique of immobilization comes from the mainland again. When Chen Qingyun heard this, he couldn't help but whisper to himself, how prosperous has the world of immortality on this continent been? It even has the immobilization technique that appears in myths. It seems that Xingzong was able to obtain this method by a great chance. His strength is definitely not as simple as it seems now. I just witnessed Xingzong taking action on Ningxing Island, and the strength he displayed was far beyond that of ordinary nascent soul monks. And the spiritual treasures he displayed were even more miraculous. The opponent is still a Tan Miaoyuaning, and his strength is higher than that of a monk of the same level. Chen Qingyun thinks that if there is a real fight, It is hard to say whether he can win the Star Master. Don't underestimate a veteran nascent soul cultivator. If he doesn't have a trump card in his hand, it's obviously impossible. As soon as Xingzun finished speaking, the three elders immediately understood and realized that Xingzun valued Chen Qingyun quite a lot. After the three of them nodded, they immediately made a copy of the immortal technique of immobilization for Chen Qingyun and took out a copy to sign the agreement. The leader of the elder said respectfully, "Senior, the skills exchanged in this sect, regardless of their level, cannot be taught to others at will, and cannot be resold to a second person. Please keep it strictly confidential." The elder explained carefully, fearing to offend Chen Qingyun, so his tone was very calm and enthusiastic. The other two elders also spoke in turn and explained this rule. Chen Qingyun understands these rules. At present, the confidentiality system of immortal cultivators exercises is very complete, and every family has such regulations. Without the constraints of this kind of agreement, the sex martial arts would have gone out on the street long ago. If you exchange one copy, you can copy it into hundreds of copies for sale, each, and disrupt the market, so there is no value at all. Chen Qingyun signed an agreement and exchanged this immortal art of immobilization. As a result, there were still just over 2.2 million worth of war achievements left. Chen Qingyun stopped redeeming them for the time being and left the library pavilion under the watch of the three elders. When preparing to leave Xingzun took the initiative to find a topic and asked Chen Qingyun about his future cultivation plans and whether he was interested in going to the mainland to cultivate immortality. Recently, I have been frequently exposed to things in the mainland world of immortality. It is obviously impossible for Chen Qingyun to say that he is not interested. Seeing Xingzun mention it, Chen Qingyun said, "As far as I know, if you want to go to the mainland, you must first cross the boundary sea before you can set foot on it. I have practiced cultivation to this day, and I have never left the inner sea. I have a look at Xinshanti on the other side of the mainland. I don't know what the scene is like there." Xingzun smiled and said, "If you want to go to the mainland, it's not too difficult." When Chen Qingyun heard this, his expression changed and he said, "Oh, how can I say this?" Xingzun smiled faintly and took the initiative to explain, "To go to the mainland, you do need to travel a certain distance in the boundary sea, but it does not really cross the entire boundary sea." Knowing that Xingzun had a way to go to the mainland, which was probably different from what he knew, Chen Qingyun was not polite and immediately asked for advice. "If this doesn't cross the entire boundary sea, how can we get to the mainland?" As soon as this question emerged, Chen Qingyun thought of a possibility. A word comes to mind. Teleportation array. Fellow Taoist Chen is a native cultivator of Xinghai. It is estimated that he seldom moves in places such as Fantasy Sea and Liling Sea. It is normal that he does not know the method of getting to the mainland. Xingzun knew everything and meant to explain it, so he followed Chen Qingyun's inquiry and answered. "As for your understanding of the boundary sea, I believe you also know that there are often whirlpools, black waters and space cracks raging there. Nascent soul monks are involved in them. Although there is no danger to their lives, they consume mana and waste time and effort. I will tell you about these." No more details. There is no need to say more about this. Chen Qingyun nodded slowly. Xingzun continued, "At the outermost edge of the boundary sea, there is a space barrier that wraps the entire boundary sea and isolates it from the mainland. This space barrier, called the Wall of the Boundary Sea, is the biggest obstacle for the inner sea monks to leave the boundary sea. It is also a protective barrier set up by the mainland to prevent the space cracks in the boundary sea from invading the mainland." Following Xingzun's narration, Chen Qingyun finally realized something in his heart and had a deeper understanding of boundary sea. No wonder, after so many years of development in the inland sea immortal cultivation world, few monks here can leave the inland sea and go to the mainland. Even in his own family, there is no record of this, and no one has ever walked out of the inner sea. Let's not talk about strength, whether there is the ability to travel freely in the boundary sea. Let's talk about the isolation of the boundary sea wall. It is estimated that even the nascent soul cultivators cannot break it. Otherwise, how can such a space barrier resist the expansion and swallowing of the boundary sea? The ending will be the same as the inner sea, and it will eventually be swallowed into the space cracks, become part of the boundary sea, and gradually disappear? Upon learning this, Chen Qingyun was slightly shocked. What kind of cultivation realm is needed to be able to use the way of space to wrap up the entire boundary sea and isolate it? Moreover, since there is such a means, why not directly solve the problem of space cracks in the boundary sea? It is a bit like drawing a line to separate the inner sea from the mainland. While Chen Qingyun was thinking, Xingzun's words continued to sound. Fellow Taoist Chen, let me ask you a question. Do you know the 4 Dinghai sacred places? Chen Qingyun hummed and said, the 4 Dinghai sacred places, I know about them. Well, that's good. In fact, the only way to get to the mainland is to go to the 4 Dinghai sacred places and take the cross-sea teleportation array there. I'm sure you've guessed this. Chapter 929, The Immortal Cultivation World on the Continent. Xingzun mentioned the cross-sea teleportation array. Only, the 4 cross-sea teleportation arrays in Dinghai Holy Land can ignore the barrier of the boundary sea wall and teleport the cultivators to the mainland. Xingzun showed a thoughtful look and continued. In addition, there is a second method, which is to go from the underground cultivation world. However, this underground cultivation world is extremely mysterious and is more repulsive to land cultivators, so it is safest to take the teleportation array. Chen Qingyun had heard some rumors about the underground world of immortal cultivation, which was recorded in the classics of the 5 Elements sect. The so-called underground world of immortal cultivation is actually the place where many places became spiritually barren after the ancient destruction, as the surface of the earth was shattered. Some forces and cultivators, powerful races, etc., began to build living spaces underground to live in order to reproduce. In order to solve the problem of sunlight, spiritual medicines and vegetation can be planted, and light-supporting stones, sunstones, sunlight-related magic tools, etc. can be used to simulate the sun to establish a complete ecological environment. Compared to the surface, the underground world is rich in mineral resources. There are many spiritual veins and dark rivers there, which will not only not affect the normal life of cultivators, but can even discover more cultivation resources. However, after a long period of development, those underground cultivators, the monks, gradually separated themselves from the surface world and began to form their own world, prohibiting the creatures on the surface from entering at will. This conflict between them is like someone spent a lot of effort to dig a well, and the latecomers wanted to sit back and enjoy the fruits of their labor without spending a penny, or even to seize the well. This kind of thing will be rejected wherever it is. It is because the monks on the surface often invade the underground world of immortal cultivation, snatch resources, spiritual veins, etc., and cause battles. This eventually led to the underground world of immortal cultivation beginning to exclude surface creatures, gradually fading out of sight, and few people knew about it. Many Xinghai monks did not even know the existence of the underground world of immortal cultivation. Chen Qingyun did not know where to enter the underground world of immortal cultivation for the time being, and did not expect to go to the mainland from the underground world of immortal cultivation, so he focused on the teleportation array mentioned by Xingzun. This trip to the mainland is indeed using a teleportation array. Chen Qingyun's expression condensed, thinking of the Dinghai Holy Land he had visited before. The environment there was obviously different from other places in the Jai, and it was not disturbed by natural disasters such as whirlpools and space cracks. In the past, it was thought that it was just to open up a suitable living territory, and 4 Dinghai Holy Lands were specially built and guarded by 4 Dinghai magic needles. Now, knowing that there is a cross-sea teleportation array there, no wonder why these 4 Dinghai Holy Lands are not merged together, but are scattered and located in different areas of the southeast, northwest and northeast of the Jai. The so-called Dinghai is to stabilize a sea area, and it is also to protect the teleportation array there. The construction requirements of the teleportation array first require a stable and solid foundation, and it cannot be built in a place where disasters frequently occur. This kind of cross-sea teleportation array will only have more stringent requirements for the construction site selection, and there must be some requirements if you want to use this teleportation array. Thinking of this, Chen Qingyun asked, "May I ask, fellow Taoist, what are the conditions for the use of this cross-sea teleportation array? I wonder if I can use it?" "This is very simple for you and me, it's nothing." Xingzun smiled faintly and said, "The 4 Dinghai Holy Lands each have a cross-sea teleportation array, which is built and maintained by the 4 sects on the continent. If cultivators want to use these teleportation arrays, one is to have a cultivation base of Yuanying period or above, and they can use them for free. The second method is to pay a sufficient amount of spirit stones." Speaking of this, Xingzun elaborated, "I travel back and forth between the continent and the inner sea, using the teleportation array of Dinghai Holy Land. I am also a guest elder of Taixun sect, and I am not subject to any restrictions on use and can travel back and forth at will." After listening to this, Chen Qingyun nodded slowly. Now he finally knew how to go to the mainland. It's not necessary to really go all out and fly around in the boundary sea. God knows what he will encounter. As for the existence of the boundary sea wall, what exactly is it like and whether it is possible to force it through, this requires one to explore it. Regarding the use of the teleportation array, Xingzun kindly talked about it for a while. When you get there, you just need to show your own strength and origin. For the strong, the mainland cultivation world is interested in absorbing them and will not reject them. If you want to act more conveniently, you can join Taixun sect and become a guest elder. Speaking of the guest elder, Xingzun showed a serious look and said, "The benefits given by Taixun sect to guest elders are not bad. At least you need to be in the nascent soul stage to serve as a guest elder. After serving as a guest elder, you can get 10,000 spirit stones every year, and you can also recommend your descendants to join Taixun sect. In terms of the resources and promotion potential of the sect, it is far better than Xingzong. It is a good place to go." Chen Qingyun didn't know much about the mainland's cultivation world. Since he had already talked about this topic, he simply asked modestly, "Taixun sect, what kind of sect is this?" It can make Xingzun, a top powerhouse in the Star Sea, and the founder of the Xingzong, also willing to join and become a guest elder. It is expected that this Taixun sect is at least a sect of the God of Transformation, and it must not be weak. When mentioning Taixun sect, Xingzun's eyes flashed, showing admiration, and said, "I guess you would ask this question, maybe you can also choose to serve as a guest elder of Taixun sect." In order to attract Chen Qingyun, Xingzun introduced, "The mainland cultivation world is just a general term. If we really talk about the territory, it is already hundreds and thousands of times larger than our Xinghai. There are countless countries, countless cultivation sects, and various family forces in that world. The area where the Taixun sect is located is called the Lin continent. There are many top forces such as the Lin 100 clans, the 36 Gave Heavens, and the 7 Taitu Blessed Lands. The Taixun sect is one of the 7 Taitu Blessed Lands. In terms of strength, it is relatively standard. Spiritual continent, the Lin 100 clans, the 36 Gave Heavens, the 7 Taitu Blessed Lands." Hearing this, Chen Qingyun's heart was immediately stirred up. The Taixun sect has a guest elder of Xingzun's level, and it is also one of the 7 Taitu Blessed Lands. Then the other 7 Taiwan Blessed Lands are at least at the same level as the Taixun sect, otherwise why can they be called the 7 Taitu Blessed Lands? The other 36 caves are probably the 36 top forces. Any one of them is likely to sweep across the entire inner sea. And the hundreds of races in the spirit realm, each race is likely to have its own unique and powerful features, and will not be much inferior to the human race. As for the spirit realm continent, is this the name of the continent's cultivation world? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo fanfic novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 930, The First Secret Realm in the Inland Sea. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Chen Qingyun didn't care about face and asked any questions he had. Asked about the specific situation of the Spirit Realm continent. Was it the mainland cultivation world that the inner sea monks referred to? Hearing this, Xingzun responded patiently, my original intention when I tell you this is to suggest that you go to the mainland to experience the world of immortality. The vastness and vastness there are beyond imagination. In front of it, our inner sea cultivation world is just a drop in the ocean, not worth mentioning at all. And this spiritual realm continent is actually just one state in the continent's immortal world. It cannot be regarded as the central area. Naturally, it cannot represent the entire continent's immortal world. Xingzun briefly introduced, besides the spiritual realm continent, there are also the more prosperous central realm continent, northern cold continent, Taiguo ancestral realm, Shura Sea, Hunyuan Sea, and other places. I'm not afraid of your jokes. I have never set foot in these areas, and I have never left the spirit realm continent. Xingzong smiled a little ashamedly, mentioning this spiritual continent. He had too many emotions. The central continent, the northern cold continent, the ancient ancestral territory. Chen Qingyun memorized the names of these continents. This was the first time he heard of them. Xingzun hummed and said, let's not talk about the central territory continent first. Let's talk about the spiritual territory continent. Its area is too vast. Its territory exceeds hundreds of millions of miles. When you go there, you will have a deep understanding of it. You will know it from time to time. Realize your own insignificance. Seeing Xingzun's expression of emotion, Chen Qingyun was moved in his heart. He had learned that Xinghai was just a small sea area in the inner sea. And the inland sea is like a puddle in the mainland. I once felt that this world was too vast, and I was as small as dust. The sense of gap brought about by this comparison began to impact Chen Qingyun's mind. Xingzun started to talk a little bit and continued, let's just say that among the hundreds of races in the spiritual realm, there are top powerhouses in each race, who are proficient in all kinds of magical powers. Our human race didn't even rank in front of those hundreds of races at first. Some of them are ancient clans that have been handed down since ancient times. Most of them have absolute strength advantages and can dominate the entire continent. They are only checked and balanced by other races and have reached a balance point. The Shark clan as we know it is actually one of the hundreds of clans in the early spiritual realm, ranking at the bottom in terms of strength. Due to some historical reasons, the Shark race declined all the way, and was eventually exiled to the Shark Sea to thrive and regain some vitality. Another example is the Black Dragon in the Black Dragon Palace. He is a member of the Black Dragon clan among the hundreds of clans in the spiritual realm. He was expelled from the clan because he violated certain clan rules, and then came to practice in the Sea of 10,000 Demons. Xingzong knew some of these examples and briefly told Chen Qingyun about them. On the spirit realm continent, the top-ranked races are so powerful that they can easily rival the top sect, and even have the ability to single out the entire human race. There are many powerful ethnic groups nurtured by heaven and earth, each with its own advantages and disadvantages, and its own uniqueness. After hearing this, Chen Qingyun was in a state of shock for a long time. I thought that after leaving the inland sea, the mainland world of immortality would not be that ridiculously strong, and its territory would be as large as one can imagine. With the knowledge of the 7 continents and 8 oceans in his previous life, Chen Qingyun subconsciously limited his imagination and locked the size of the continents into a frame. This is either composed of sea and land, and will not exceed the inland sea area. Now, after hearing such a simple mention from Xingzun, Chen Qingyun's original view of the world has changed dramatically, and he still underestimated the size of the world of immortality. Those hundreds of races in the spiritual realm are more like towering majestic mountains, standing in front of the human race, bringing a strong sense of oppression. Okay. I've talked a lot. It's been a long time since I've chatted with someone like this. It's our blessing that Xinghai can give birth to an outstanding descendant like you. I'm telling you this today to give you some peace of mind in advance. In the future, when you go to the mainland and experience it yourself, you will have a different feeling. After Xingzun finished speaking, he stopped mentioning the matter. Chen Qingyun gathered his thoughts and walked out of the mountain gate with Xingzun. As he was saying goodbye, Xingzun changed the topic to another matter. Fellow Taoist Chen, there is one more thing I need to remind you. Looking at Xingzun's smiling eyes, Chen Qingyun said, please speak. Xingzun said, in another 20 years, it will be the time for the outer fairy palace to open. You might as well make this preparation first. Extraterrestrial fairy palace. When Chen Qingyun heard this, his expression darkened and he did not respond. When the other party mentioned the Immortal Palace outside the territory at this time, it was obviously not a casual comment. In all likelihood, he had guessed that he had obtained the Immortal Palace scroll. After all, in the eyes of a nascent soul cultivator, with the assistance of Xingzun, he had participated in the experience of the escaped Immortal Palace, and obtained the Immortal Palace scroll. It was easy to find out. After all, the escaped palace is under the jurisdiction of the Star Sect. How can what happened inside be hidden from the eyes and ears of the Star Sect? Star-Lord's words continued to sound. Fellow Taoist Chen, I might as well tell you that there are many heavenly and earthly treasures in the Immortal Palace outside the territory, as well as top-notch heaven-reaching spiritual treasures, and even ancient treasures. These opportunities can greatly increase your strength, and you can also have more protection when traveling to the mainland in the future. I suggest you go to the Immortal Palace outside the territory to experience first, so that you won't suffer any disadvantages. Since the conversation had come to this point, Chen Qingyun did not pretend to be ignorant and make Xingzun laugh. He simply asked, do you know so much about the Outer Domain Fairy Palace? Have you ever participated in it? Xingzun did not hide anything and nodded. The Outer Domain Fairy Palace is known as the first secret realm in the Inner Sea. It was built by an ancient ancestor of the Huaxian sect. Some mysterious restrictions and formations were set up in it, and there were also top-level puppets guarding it. To be honest, I had the honor to participate in it not long after I formed my infant, and I still remember it vividly. Chen Qingyun was not too interested in these old stories of Xingzun, and his attention was attracted by the three words Huaxian sect. No one had heard of the existence of this sect in the Inner Sea. And being able to create a secret realm and possessing such a great means, this strength has exceeded cognition. There is no doubt that this Huaxian sect must also come from the mainland's cultivation world. Thinking of this, Chen Qingyun wanted to go to the Outer Domain Fairy Palace to take a look. Tongshan Lingbao. This is the exclusive magic weapon of the Divine Transformation Cultivator, that is, the 6th level magic weapon, which has the power of reaching the sky and penetrating the earth. Chen Qingyun asked, where is the Outer Fairy Palace exactly? Why is there no record of it in the Fairy Palace scroll? How can I go there? You don't need to worry about this. When the time comes, there will be a way for you to go there. You just need to keep the Fairy Palace scroll safe. Chapter 931, Immobilization. How to know where the foreign fairy palace is and how to get there. Xingzun did not elaborate. He did not forget to remind, by the way, every time the extraterrestrial Immortal Palace is opened, most of the participating monks are about 100 people, corresponding to about 100 Immortal Palace scrolls. Of these participants, the lowest ones are at the Xifu stage, and the highest ones can reach the nascent soul stage. You need to know this. 100 Asgard scrolls, that's a lot. Chen Qingyun frowned, feeling a little surprised. When he was in the reclusive Immortal Mansion and finally entered the Immortal Mansion, the only people who had obtained the Immortal Palace scroll were himself, Liu Zilin, the old patriarch, and Nangang Yuang. There are more than 90 fairy palace scrolls. Where do these come from? Noticing Chen Qingyun's expression, Xingzun explained, if you think about this carefully, you can probably guess the answer. The escaped Immortal Palace is a reflection of the Immortal Palace outside the territory, similar to a mirage. Since this is just a corner, it can reflect more shadows elsewhere. Chen Qingyun was surprised, looked at Xingzun and said, "According to this, how many, or even more than a dozen, are there in the reclusive immortal mansion?" "Good." Xingzun nodded and said, "The Immortal Palace outside the territory was created for training monks and contains many opportunities. The Immortal Palace scroll is the certificate to qualify for participation, and it is also the way to lead the monks to the outside world and enter the Immortal Palace. If only a few people participate in each session, wouldn't it mean a waste of natural resources?" The founder of Huaxian sect has thought carefully and has already considered this. Speaking of this, Xingzun did not give in and took the initiative to inform that in the three places of Piomia Blood Sea, Thunder Spirit Sea, and Boundary Sea, there is actually a fixed hermitage immortal mansion in each place, which is controlled by the top forces there. Including one from the Sea of 10,000 Demons, there are 4. In addition, on the Linu continent, there is also a reclusive immortal mansion for mainland monks to enter and experience. In general, there are a large number of reflections of the Immortal Palace reflected in the Immortal Palace outside the territory, covering both the inner sea and the spiritual continent. For people from the spiritual realm continent, seeking qualifications to participate in entering the Immortal Palace outside the realm is also very attractive. There are so many secluded immortal mansions, so the number of people participating is indispensable. Even the monks from the spirit realm continent want to go there. It seems that it is really worth trying. Chen Qingyun thought to himself. He was really ready to make a move. Xingzun was silent for a moment, and when Chen Qingyun looked at him, he spoke again and gave a suggestion. "You don't want to go to the spiritual continent for the time being. You might as well compete with those outside monks in the Immortal Palace and learn from each other. If you can win the prize and gain some fame, it will also be conducive to traveling in the spiritual continent in the future. Also, the 4 teleportation arrays in Xinghai Holy Land are currently in the maintenance stage. It is expected that it will take more than 10 years before they will be opened to the public again. It just so happens that you don't conflict with going to the Immortal Palace outside the territory. After you gain something in the Immortal Palace, you can take the cross-sea teleportation array to the Spirit Realm continent." Xingzun looked at Chen Qingyun with a smile, said nothing more, and saw Chen Qingyun off. "That's it. No need to waste any more words. Go ahead. If you need any advice in the future, you can come to Xingzong to find me." As soon as he finished speaking, Xingzun turned into a rainbow and flew away, disappeared into the sky, and flew into the direction of the Dragon Head area of Xingzong. Chen Qingyun did not shy away. He took out the Fairy Palace scroll that he had collected for a long time. He looked at it carefully and found that there was nothing strange on the scroll. Information about when the extraterrestrial Fairy Palace will be opened, how to get there, what the rules are, etc., has not yet been revealed. It seems that after a specific time, this thing will give some prompts. The next thing to do is to wait patiently for the information from the Asgard scroll, and I don't expect to wait too long. 20 years. Chen Qingyun gathered his thoughts, then set up a sword light and flew away from Xingzong and returned to Zhenhai Island. The days on the island were relatively leisurely, since he had exchanged the nascent soul technique. Chen Qingyun was ready to seize the time and began to practice the immortal technique of immobilization and seclusion. By the way, we will practice the refining the sun and melting the sea together, and prepare to follow Xingzun's suggestion to join the group of foreign fairy palaces. This is a more advanced training place than the Escape World Immortal Mansion. It is expected that many nascent soul monks will participate in it. By then, it is estimated that many powerful people in the entire inner sea will appear in the fairy palace outside the territory. And what kind of means do those mainland monks have at their disposal? How many people will participate? Chen Qingyun gathered his thoughts and took the lead in practicing the immortal technique of immobilization. In the final analysis, this technique is not actually an immortal body-holding technique in the true sense, and the effect can only reach about 1%. To achieve the effect of Sun Wukong, to immobilize the 7 fairies in the beach garden. It only takes a trace of mana to reach that level. The method of practicing this technique requires using the nascent soul. It is not too difficult and can basically be mastered by nascent soul monks. Being immersed in practice, I don't know how old I am. Time flies and 1 year has passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, in the waters of the outer star sea, a thorny sea king snake was turning over the river, setting off a rolling wave and hitting a tall figure. This figure easily dodged the attack of the waves, and exerted a burst of magic power that shattered the surrounding waves and fell into the sea with a crash. This thorny sea king snake has reached the 3rd level and is a rare and powerful monster within thousands of miles around. The thorny sea snake roared, suddenly dancing its huge body, and opened its bloody mouth to bite. A huge snake-shaped shadow was reflected on the sea surface, and a strong bloody and pungent smell came to his face. The figure did not dodge, and when the snake's mouth was only a dozen meters away from him, a crisp sound came out of his mouth. Fix. As soon as this word came out, the thorny sea snake, which was still rushing forward, was suddenly fixed, and instantly turned into a statue, keeping its head out of the sea and opening its mouth to bite. Even the snake's body and the water stains on its scales were frozen at this moment, like a portrait. The wind spirit clone used the immobilization magic, and the mana consumed 50%. The thorny sea snake was firmly fixed and became a lamb to be slaughtered. Chen Qingyun tested this immobilization effect and did not take action for the time being, waiting for how long the effect could last. 1, 2, 3. When the 3rd second passed, the immobilization power of the thorny sea snake gradually lost its effect. The monster suddenly shook, and the water stains on its body began to flow down. It regained its ability to move and rushed towards Chen Qingyun. Chapter 932 Mo Ling advances to Yuaning, Boohoo. The 3 ice blades condensed out of thin air, and under the command of the wind spirit clone, they cut the thorny sea king snake into several pieces in the blink of an eye, ending the battle. Using Z Mansion's peak strength to cast the immobilization technique, consuming half of the mana, and the immobilization effect will last for 3 seconds. If it is used by a clone in the nascent soul stage, in theory, the effect will be the same. It can immobilize the enemy for 3 seconds. Immobilizing the enemy for 1 second is enough to decapitate the enemy with one move if there are no superior defensive weapons, such as spiritual armor, spiritual talismans and other automatic protection. This immobilizing effect lasts for 3 seconds, enough to kill the opponent 4 or 5 times. In a duel between experts, victory or defeat can often be determined in just 1 second. In this sea area with a radius of thousands of miles, the giant and demon king cannot be found for the time being. Chen Qingyun will not try again, as long as he has a certain understanding in his heart. Returning to Zhenhai Island, Chen Qingyun spent the next 2 years immersed in the practice of refining the sun and melting the sea, impacting the 3rd level of the technique. This 3rd level of skill can condense the purple yang divine fire and display the magical power of the Suzaku Dharma. The power of this Suzaku method can reach the peak strength of the user. It is a very powerful magical power. It contains many moves, such as Suzaku Fire Feather, Cloud Exploration Claw, 9 Flame Suzaku, etc. The most representative one is the Suzaku Melting Fire, which can cast endless divine fire to melt enemies and turn 1,000 miles around into a world of fire. These moves are all learned and used flexibly, and they are interoperable. After a lot of hard work, Chen Qingyun has cultivated this 3rd level to the entry level, mastered more than a dozen magical powers, and can use the power of fire more skillfully. After coming out of seclusion, Chen Qingyun noticed that Mo Ling had changed and showed signs of advancement. 7 or 8 years have passed. Mo Ling is about to break through the nascent soul stage. Chen Qingyun couldn't help but look happy and immediately entered the blessed land Pearl. Arriving at the edge of the Thunder Spring, I saw Mo Ling in the pond, who had entered the critical period of promotion to the 5th level. There was only a pool of deep-sea Thunder Spring, 2/3 of which had been consumed at this time, and the Twin Tianyan Swords at the bottom of the pool could be clearly seen. The spiritual beast's advancement to the 5th level will also cause strange phenomena in the world and attract some attention. In order to be promoted smoothly, Mo Ling was bathed in thunder and lightning, shouted at Chen Qingyun, and then spread his wings and flew in the direction of the water spirit vein. The last time Chen Qingyun broke through the nascent soul, he had water spirit veins as his spiritual energy supply. This time, he switched to Mo Ling to ensure that there was enough spiritual energy from heaven and earth to maintain his advancement. Surrounded by a large amount of spiritual energy from heaven and earth, Mo Ling stood upright, spread out a pair of wide wings, and made a posture of soldiers coming to block it and water coming to cover it. Unlike monks who conceive babies, spiritual beasts do not need to go through inner demon tribulations, and there is no such thing as inner demons. As long as there is enough supply of heaven and earth spiritual energy and the bloodline reaches the bottleneck, then the entire advancement process can be completed. Chen Qingyun was protecting Mo Ling on the side, paying attention to Mo Ling's movements, and even took out pills, spiritual treasures, etc. to protect Mo Ling at all times. About 10 breaths later, large swaths of colorful clouds began to gather in the sky, shrouding Mo Ling's head, causing the storm to stir. Qingyun appears in this world, and this advancement is most likely going to happen. Chen Qingyun looked at the colorful clouds in the sky and remembered the scene when he gave birth to a baby. Compared with what he saw before him, there was not much difference. Mo Ling's advanced posture is probably going to catch up with the 5 elements nascent soul. Such visions of heaven and earth attracted Bei Ling. If Mo Ling had not been in the blessed land Pearl, I am afraid that such visions of heaven and earth would have attracted the attention of Star Sect, Lingba Oshan and other forces. Mo Ling's advancement lasted for almost a month. After absorbing the vast amount of spiritual energy from the surrounding world, Mo Ling was bathed in the vortex of spiritual energy. His body became visibly stronger and his feathers became more lustrous. Chen Qingyun's eyes were sharp, and he paid attention to the aura on Mo Ling's body. He had successfully advanced to the 5th level, breaking through the initial strength of nascent soul. This time the advancement is done. Mo Ling, his first spiritual pet, advanced to nascent soul. Chen Qingyun looked overjoyed and called out. Mo Ling restrained the lightning and aura on his body, flew to Chen Qingyun's side with great joy, lowered his head and rubbed against Chen Qingyun's body. A nascent soul demon king behaved so kindly in front of a human monk, without any dignity at all. If an outsider saw such a scene, they would not be able to open their mouths and would find it incredible. 5th level spiritual beasts all have the ability to transform into humans. Chen Qingyun tried to communicate with Mo Ling to see if Mo Ling had awakened his language talent and could speak human language. Mo Ling, you have advanced to the 5th level. Mo Ling organized his words and said with some slurred words, yes, yes. How does it feel? Have fun. After a brief exchange of words, Mo Ling could only express some words such as yes, okay, maybe because he had just advanced. When talking in the human language, it still seems a bit incoherent. Obviously, it still needs to get used to. Ha ha ha, don't rush, you can adapt slowly. Okay. Okay. Mo Ling nodded in response. His voice was male, mixed with a little childish charm. In the following 10 days, Chen Qingyun often talked with Mo Ling, which made Mo Ling quickly learn to talk in human language. Occasionally there are just some grammatical errors and a few bad sentences. If you want to express your meaning, it is very clear, equivalent to a 15 or 16-year-old child. Level 5 spirit beasts have the ability to transform, and so does Mo Ling. On this day, he began to think about what kind of shape he should transform into. In order to assist Mo Ling in transforming and choosing the shape he likes, Chen Qingyun released Mo Ling from the blessed land bead and moved around on Zhenhai Island. In this way, Mo Ling continued to observe a group of mortals, Chen Qingyun and other cultivators on the island, and began to formulate his own human image. Seeing Mo Ling appear, the aura revealed on his body became unfathomable. Yuzilin guessed something and asked Mo Ling, have you advanced? Yes. Mo Ling spoke clearly, and his big eyes looked quite smart, and said to Yuzilin, Sister, I want to transform, do you have any better suggestions and ideas? Liu Zilin was quite surprised. When she heard Mo Ling speak, she didn't know what was going on, and couldn't help but look around Mo Ling for a few times. By the way, spirit beasts can transform when they reach the 5th level. Liu Zilin smiled slightly, reached out and touched Mo Ling's wings, and said, "What kind of shape do you want yourself to transform into? Do you have a favorite?" "Yes, yes." After this reminder, Mo Ling seemed to have thought of something, and immediately showed a bit of excitement. "I thought of it." Chapter 933 Mo Ling transforms. 3 days later, a young man in black appeared in front of Chen Qingyun. This man has long hair tied up with a black feather hairpin, a tall and slender figure, and a pair of bright eyes. If you look closely, you can see that the black robe has feather-like lines on it, and there are some golden hairs in the long hair. Seeing this young man in black, Chen Qingyun only felt a sense of intimacy and did not feel any strangeness at all. This is not Mo Ling, who else could it be? On the same day, Chen Qingyun, Chen Qingyun and others learned that Mo Ling had transformed into a human being, and they all came to watch. "Little Mo Ling, you have actually reached the nascent soul stage." Chen Qingyun's eyes sparkled, trying to see the flowers from Mo Ling. "What kind of spiritual beast are you? You can advance to the 5th level, but now you are not allowed to be called the Demon Emperor." Chen Qingyun's joke made Mo Ling laugh, scratch his head, and say shyly, "You'd better call me Mo Ling." The rest of the people, Chen Qingyun and Chen Qingyun, were all extremely surprised. The second nascent soul stage creature born in this family was actually Mo Ling. In the 3rd month after Mo Ling transformed into a human being, Tianyan's twin swords also gained fruit. At this time, the deep-sea thunder spring had been completely absorbed by the Tianyan double swords, and it was finally promoted to the middle-grade spiritual treasure level. Chen Qingyun used Tianyan's double swords and found that the power of the spiritual treasure had doubled, and the attack speed had increased a lot. With a better immortal sword in hand, Chen Qingyun began to practice the Tongshan sword art. This sword art is mainly based on magical moves, and is only divided into 2 levels, corresponding to the early and middle stages of Yuanying. On the 1st level, one can cultivate the sky-reaching sword light and reveal the ultimate killing power of the flying sword weapon. On the 2nd level, there are 36 kinds of magical powers of sword moves, such as meteor chasing the moon, sword shadow clone, sword opening the gate of heaven, etc. What caught Chen Qingyun's fancy the most was a set of moves called Tongshan sword formation. This method can lay down a killing sword formation, and its power reaches the peak of the nascent soul stage. If you want to set up the sky sword formation, you need to cast the sword shadow clone first, and then coordinate with the flying sword to form the formation. With the existence of the 5 elements external incarnations, Chen Qingyun not only does not need to use the sword shadow clone, but he can also form a joint formation with the clones such as Yushibang, Jiuyu, and Poseidon. In this way, the power can be exerted even more powerfully and with great flexibility. In the next 3 years, Chen Qingyun was immersed in practice and successfully entered the 2nd level of Tongshan sword art. It wasn't until the summer of the 4th year, after initially mastering the Tongshan sword formation, that good news came again. Bai Ling, who had been in the promotion stage, finally completed his promotion at this time. Chen Qingyun went to check and found that Bai Ling had been promoted to a great level, reaching the peak of the golden core stage. According to this trend, there is still great hope for Bai Ling to be promoted to the 5th level. Bai Ling and Bai Ling are both in the same realm. In the past few years, when I saw Mo Ling in human form, I was very envious. In order to one day advance to the 5th level, the 2 little guys often move around Xinhai Island and the Star Sea, hunting for food on their own and looking for opportunities. Counting the time, 11 years have passed since the end of the Star Sea Demon Tide. The fruits on the 3 green fruit trees were already ripe. Chen Qingyun went to check and saw that there were many fruits on the trees. According to statistics, the total number was 101. In order to promote the reproduction of the 6-winged miasma cloud bee and gold-winged insects and greatly increase their numbers, Chen Qingyun picked all the green yuan fruits and used them to feed the spiritual insects. Currently, the number of 6-winged miasma cloud bees has reached over 110,000, and the number of gold wings is nearly 10,000. After feeding the spiritual insects, Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilan took time together to go to Huangsha Island to collect some more resources. By the way, Shui Yuan, Lin Yuandao and others took the teleportation array and headed to the Star Sea to fulfill their previous promises. I haven't been here for decades, and there is no visible change in the development of Huangsha Island. However, the vegetation is much denser than before. As soon as the two arrived, the three clan leaders, Shui Yuan, Wu Dihai, and Lin Yuandao, were gathered together in the Shui family, all of them frowning. Wu Dihai couldn't sit still and said, "These Black Crystal Island monks are too ambitious. If I don't show them some color this time, they really think that we Huangsha Island monks are easy to bully." As soon as Wu Dihai finished speaking, Lin Yuandao nodded in agreement and said, "They are back again and attacking again. We should also attack hard. They think that with the Golden Core Cultivator in charge, we will really become weak persimmons. Now, Senior Chen and the others have not shown up for 20 or 30 years. I am afraid they are busy with important matters and have no time to pay attention to us. We can't always rely on the Chen family. We still have to solve this kind of problem ourselves. Avoiding it won't solve the problem." More than 3 months ago, Huangsha Island was explored by a force called Black Crystal Island, which exposed its location and triggered a small-scale battle. Shui Yuan and others did not know where exactly this Black Crystal Island was. Adhering to the principle of survival in the Boundary Sea, no one is willing to expose their position and attract outsiders to covet them, except for a few powerful forces in the four Dinghai Holy Lands. This time, because Huangsha Island was exposed and the specific location was controlled by Black Crystal Island, Shui Yuan and others were extremely worried that Black Crystal Island would join forces with other forces to seize the island. Although in the battle more than 3 months ago, Huangsha Island successfully repelled the Black Crystal Island fleet, a total of 3 large spiritual ships. However, the strength shown by the opponent made the Huangsha Island monks feel troublesome, so they dispatched 2 Zaifu monks, more than 30 foundation-building monks, and more than 500 chi-refining monks. Apart from these forces, there must be strong men in Black Crystal Island, and it is impossible for them to come out in full force. As expected, this time, Black Crystal Island attacked again. According to the spies of the Lin family, 10 large spirit ships were sent this time, and it is estimated that there are more than 5 or 6,000 monks on board. This is no longer a small force. It may be an alliance force formed by many families and forces, with giant monks in charge. They claim to be from Black Crystal Island, and we can't believe them completely. Don't take our surnames as they say. Shui Yuan pondered for a moment, and then agreed to the proposal of Lin Yuandao and Wu Dihai, ready to fight to the death and protect Huangsha Island. Just when the 3 people discussed the result, a Shui family monk hurried to report. "Patriarch, they are coming and attacking." Shui Yuan and the other 2 looked at each other, turned into 3 long rainbows and flew out of the hall, and each went to summon the family monks to participate in the battle. Before the summons for discussion, the 3 families gathered their men and horses and prepared for the battle. In the southern part of Huangsha Island, more than 30 miles away from the coastline, a great battle broke out between the 2 sides. Although there were not many cultivators dispatched from Huangsha Island, with Shui Yuan leading the way and 2 third-level puppet beasts participating, it did increase their morale. Chapter 934 Linhai Island. On the attacking side, the leading monk Tianlai released his spiritual consciousness and clearly detected the scale of the monks dispatched on Huangsha Island. HMPH, it's just a few Zaifu people who want to make trouble in front of us. Do you really think that I don't have the giant and patriarch on Linhai Island? Tianlai's strength was only in the later stages of Zaifu, but the person sitting cross-legged behind him gave him great confidence. I saw that it was a short, red-haired old man with sinister features, wearing a gorgeous and exquisite Taoist robe. This person's cultivation level has reached the middle stage of the Golden Core. He is one of the top monks on Linhai Island, and is only a small level lower than the leader of the Linhai Alliance. We have found out the strength of the monks on these islands. In the last battle, the strongest person they dispatched was Zaifuki. They also said that they had the support of experts behind them to warn us not to act recklessly. Bah, if they really had this strength, why would they be huddled on this island? Why don't they send out Golden Core monks to control the situation? The speaker was a peak cultivator from the Z mansion named Ruduin, who was the leader of the command this time. The old man of Jindan is named Zhuxiantu. The three of them are the strongest among the forces dispatched this time. In addition, there are two early-stage cultivators from Zaifu who are traveling with them, preparing to capture Huangsha Island this time. This time, 10 spirit ships were dispatched, each equipped with a second-level top-grade god-destroying crossbow, which could easily kill monks below the Zaifu stage. This kind of power is equivalent to 2/3 of Linghai Island's strength. The battle has begun, and a large number of monks use their magic weapons to use magic to attack the Huangsha Island monks, hoping to win with numerical superiority. Although Tianyan had not taken action yet, he could no longer hold back and suggested, "When we take action later, we will first destroy their spirit ship and cut off their opportunity to escape to the sea, so as to eliminate the root cause. It's so inappropriate and I don't agree with it." When Ruduin heard this, he hesitated and said, "Spirit ships are precious resources, and their construction is quite time-consuming, laborious, and expensive. If we can capture a few spiritual ships, we can reward them based on their merits when we go back, and get a lot of benefits. I think it's better not to destroy them at will." After hearing this, Tianyan still insisted on his own ideas, snorted coldly, and couldn't help but retort, "Don't destroy your future just for the sake of this benefit, and give your opponent a chance to escape. Don't forget that when you invaded Black Turtle Island more than 10 years ago, you just coveted 2 spiritual ships and failed to destroy them in time, which ultimately led to the group of monks from Black Turtle Island using the spiritual ships to escape. It took us a lot of effort to chase them later, and we almost let them run away." Ruduin was speechless when he mentioned this old incident. He said nothing more and looked at Zhuxiantu. Zhuxiantu did not speak, but continued to maintain a state of concentrating with his eyes closed, quite aloof. On the other side, Huangsha Island. Shui Nuian and others moved very quickly. After determining the location of the enemy's leader, they directly issued a warning. "This is our clan's important territory. It's best for you to retreat and don't cross the border again." Lin Yuan Dao issued a warning, and with the blessing of magic power, his voice roared like rolling thunder and spread over a distance of more than 10 miles. When Tianyan, Ruduin and others heard this, they didn't take it seriously at all. They ordered the fleet to continue speeding forward, set up the god-destroying crossbow and launched the attack. Seeing that his opponent not only did not retreat, but also accelerated his offensive, Shui Nuian's expression turned cold. He stopped talking nonsense, and called on the 3 elite monks to take action, expanding the scale of the battle. "If you ignore the warning, get rid of them today. We are going all out. No need to show any mercy." "Good." Lin Yuan Dao, Wu Dihai, and Wu Jiango responded and each led the monks to launch a more violent attack. The battle instantly became intense. Dozens of miles away from where the battle took place, Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin were preparing to summon Shui Nuian and others, and then they noticed the movement caused by the battle. The 2 of them used their spiritual senses to explore and immediately discovered the clues. Liu Zilin took the lead and raised her eyebrows. She saw the reason and said, "There are 10 foreign spirit ships, and it seems they are trying to compete for this Huangsha Island." Chen Qingyun nodded and said, "Go and have a look." A distance of more than 50 miles can be resisted in a blink of an eye by the Golden Core cultivator. The 2 set up their swords, and with 2 whooshes they flew up into the air, turning into 2 rainbows that flew straight to the battle area and landed on the sea. The battle has entered a fever pitch. From the enemy's spirit ship, magical weapons, talismans, fireballs and other attacks are often launched wildly, falling like rain on the spirit ship on Huangsha Island. Shui Nuian activated a light blue orb and used a large area of seawater to form a thick aqua barrier. This layer of protective barrier enveloped the one he was riding on and even the 3 surrounding spiritual ships, forming a huge blue sky to resist the crazy incoming attacks. However, this defense did not last long. On the spiritual boat headed by the opponent, an old man's figure came through the air, raised his hand and pointed forward, releasing a huge halberd weapon, roaring forward like a dragon coming out of the sea. It's too late, but it's soon. With a roar, the halberd's weapon penetrated the water-curtain defense, passed through the gap between the 2 spirit ships, and plunged into the sea with a crash. Golden Elixir Monk. His own moves were broken by one move, and several cracks appeared on the Shui Yanzu. Shui Nuian didn't care about the pain, realizing that the other party had sent out a giant and cultivator. At the same time, because the defense of Shui Yanzu was broken, the 3 spirit ships were completely exposed to the enemy's offensive. Bei Tanlai and his men saw the opportunity and immediately increased their offensive, wanting to take the opportunity to destroy these spirit ships and make a quick decision. Little purple mansion ants, let's see how many moves you can take from me. Zhuxiantu opened his spiritual sense and quickly locked onto the leader Shui Nuian, with a bit of contempt on his face. Go. A long halberd flew out from his sleeves and shot towards Shui Nuian quickly. The giant and power contained in it shocked Shui Nuian's expression and he dodged in panic. At the critical moment, Shui Nuian decisively cast a body movement talisman and avoided the attack without any danger. The long halberd missed and pierced through the deck of the spirit ship with a bang, and the residual power penetrated the bottom of the ship. Then, like a bullet, it hit a long wave in the sea, reaching 100 feet. Shui Nuian's dodge made Zhuxiantu's expression unchanged. With a thought, he controlled the long halberd to cut Shui Nuian again. This seemingly simple move, the power contained in it is definitely not something that a purple mansion cultivator can match, causing Shui Nuian to dodge and panic. At the same time, 100 meters away from the battle, Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin stood in the air, and had already explored the situation in front of them, and their eyes fell on Zhuxiantu and his group of invaders. Chapter 935, Mighty Counterattack. 1 is in the middle stage of Jianden, 4 are from Zaifu, and the rest are more than 3,000 people. Let me help. Liu Zilin smiled softly and winked mischievously at Chen Qingyun. Good. After receiving Chen Qingyun's nod of agreement, Liu Zilin directly released her own aura and sacrificed the Xuanlingwood Divine Sword. This wooden flying sword flew straight out, landed at the place where the 2 sides were fighting, and flew in front of Zhuxiantu in the blink of an eye. After all, it was the Golden Core Cultivator. Zhuxiantu noticed it the moment the Xuanlingwood Divine Sword was shot. After he sensed Liu Zilin's aura with his spiritual consciousness, his expression changed. Jianden, late-stage monk. At this moment, seeing the flying sword coming, Zhuxiantu did not dare to neglect at all, so he could only cancel his attack on Shui Nuian and use a shield. The Xuanlingwood Divine Sword was extremely sharp, and with a clang it broke the shield and chopped it into several pieces. This magic weapon was damaged in one encounter. My magic weapon. Zhuxiantu was startled and quickly activated his body armor to defend himself. Fortunately, he blocked the flying sword's lingering attack. On the side, Ruduan and Bei Tanlai noticed Zhuxiantu's actions and gave up attacking their opponents. Their eyes fell on the Xuanlingwood Divine Sword. I saw this flying sword spinning in the air, slashing out 9 sword lights, covering Zhuxiantu. Not good. Zhuxiantu had already discovered Liu Zilin's strength and had no more thoughts of fighting anymore. He immediately abandoned everyone and ran away. Unfortunately, 3 of the sword lights blocked his way, so he could only launch passive defense. He could only grit his teeth and activate a 4th-level defensive talisman, and use the method of suppressing the bottom of the box. However, these 4th-level mid-grade spiritual talismans cannot withstand the attack of the Xuanlingwood Divine Sword at all. The Xuanlingmu Divine Sword was so powerful that it broke through the defense of the spirit talisman and killed Zhuxiantu with one blow. In an instant, A golden elixir monk was killed, and the biggest supporter in his team was killed. During the day, Lei and the others broke into a cold sweat, and looked in the direction of Liu Zilin. When I saw it, I was immediately shocked. Just as Liu Zilin and Chen Qingyun came from the sky, the aura on one of them was released, reaching the late stage of Jianden. Another one has surpassed the golden elixir stage. Chen Qingyun also released his cultivation at this moment to deter these invading monks and the forces behind them. Yuan, nascent soul stage monk, my god. This. During the day, Lei and Ruduan looked horrified, screamed strangely, and almost fell to the ground in fright. Looking at the other monks around, many people noticed this scene, and it was like a pot was exploding. These monks from Linhai Island turned into birds and beasts and dispersed. They had no idea of fighting at all and turned their spirit ships to run away. It's Senior. When Shui Yuan, Wu Dihai and others saw Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin appear, they immediately became excited and saluted. No need to be polite, let's deal with the foreign enemies first. Chen Qingyun spoke calmly. Good. Without Zhuxiantu, these Linhai Island monks were no match at all. They only escaped a few hundred meters away before being overtaken by the Huangsha Island monks. This battle ended in about half an hour. The Huangsha Island side achieved an overwhelming victory and captured more than a dozen monks from Linhai Island alive. After clearing the battlefield and seizing the spirit ship, Baitan Lai and more than a dozen people were kidnapped by Wu Da and brought to the island, where they were asked about their origins. Kill me if you dare. It's simply a dream to know our origins. These people were a bit tough-talking, unwilling to expose their origins, and wanted to self-destruct, so Shui Yuan had their Danshan destroyed. Tian Lei originally wanted to pretend to surrender, but Lin Yuan Dao saw through it at a glance and used the flying sword to chop off his head. Even if they kill the chickens to scare the monkeys, these foreign monks are still very tough-talking, and they all secretly grit their teeth, looking for opportunities to retaliate. After some inquiries to no avail, Shui Yuan and others had a headache. Wu Dihai was so angry that he wanted to peel off the skins of these people, chop them into pieces and throw them into the sea to feed the fish. It feels very uncomfortable when the enemy is in the dark and I am in the light. Seeing this, Chen Qingyun directly used the God questioning technique and easily asked the answer he wanted. This caused Shui Yuan and others to be surprised, and secretly sighed that they were indeed nascent soul cultivators. They were really capable. It turned out that these monks did not come from Black Crystal Island, they just casually mentioned such a fake place name to confuse the public. Their true origin is from Linhai Island. This Linhai Island is located in the south of Huangsha Island, about 30,000 miles away. It is a small archipelago. There are 16 immortal cultivating families on this archipelago, composed of two forces, which merged into an alliance force called the Linhai Alliance. The current leader of the Linhai Alliance has reached the late stage of Jianden and is the strongest among the forces. Zhu Guanghai is ranked second in strength and is the deputy leader. 2 golden elixirs, 15 Zaifu monks, more than 300 foundation building monks, and more than 10,000 chi refining monks. This is the current strength of the Linhai Alliance. It has relied on its continuous exploration of the surrounding areas for more than 100 years and launched invasions to deprive resources and strengthen itself. Even those who were willing to surrender, most of them were forced to swear the inner demon oath as a guarantee not to betray or disobey the Linhai Alliance. More than 30,000 miles away, so close, there is such a Jianden Alliance force hidden around our Huangsha Island. This Linhai Alliance is simply a poisonous snake waiting for an opportunity to strike. We cannot keep it. Wu Dihai felt a chill on his back, and when he looked at Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin again, the fear in his heart disappeared in an instant. Fortunately, we have seniors Chen and Liu here. Even if the Linhai League is a Jianden force, what can it do? To exaggerate a little, even if it is a Yuanying force, it must not be a match for Senior Chen. I haven't seen you for decades, and I feel that Senior Chen's strength has become much deeper and more solid. This is probably a breakthrough to the middle stage of the Yuanying, This cultivation speed is really jaw-dropping. After the interrogation, Shui Nuian raised his sword and killed these Linhai Island monks and looted the spoils. Shui Nuian was very experienced. He took the initiative to present Zhu Guanghai's storage bag to Liu Zilin, meaning that this person was killed by Liu Zilin, and the spoils naturally belonged to her. Liu Zilin accepted the storage bag and could see if Chen Qingyun needed anything later and divided. That day, Linhai Island. Alliance leader Wanjiantu received a message and learned that the fleet sent to attack Huangsha Island encountered a powerful enemy, which alarmed a late giant and cultivator and a yawning old monster, who was so scared that he collapsed on his chair. It's over, it's over. I, Wanjiantu, have been in power for nearly 100 years, but I didn't expect to hit a wall this time and provoke a yawning old monster. According to the yawning old monster's methods, he must have figured out the details of my Linhai Island. The location here must have been exposed. I'm afraid we will be retaliated next. Chapter 936 Sea Guide goes out to expand territory. Wanjiantu was able to serve as the leader of Linhai Island, and he thought he had some strength and means, and he was not afraid even to fight against a peak giant and cultivator. But when he provoked a yawning cultivator, he immediately panicked, thinking that he could not even beat a finger of the other party, and the only outcome was to surrender or die. Thinking of this, Wanjiantu weighed the position of leader and his own life and death again and again, and finally reluctantly abandoned the Linhai League. On the same day, he took some resources and treasures on the pretext of retreat and fled alone. After leaving Linhai Island, this person disappeared in the vast sea and flew towards the Qingguang Islands. At this moment, the dangers brought by natural disasters such as space cracks, sky winds, and whirlpools were far less frightening to him than the yawning cultivators. Wanjiantu's escape before the battle and the deterrent shown by Chen Qingyun have already determined the outcome of the battle between Huangsha Island and Linhai Island, and Linhai Island is destined to lose. Looking at Huangsha Island, Chen Qingyun learned about the existence of Linhai Island and plans to take over this archipelago and build it into a family residence. There are 3 third-level spiritual veins and 1 fourth-level spiritual vein on Linhai Island, which are beneficial to the Chen family and can be developed as an overseas residence. In the future, when leading the strong men of the clan to the mainland cultivation world, they can also stop here directly. After learning about Chen Qingyun's idea, Wu Dihai volunteered and said, "Senior, I will not offend others if others do not offend me." This Linhai Island cultivator attacked our Huangsha Island twice. If it is not eliminated, it will become a hidden danger in the future. I am willing to lead the team to fight and eliminate this Linhai Island. Count me in, I will go too. Lin Yuan Dao raised his hand. My Shui family will not stay out of this battle, and I will go with you. Shui Nuian also spoke up, indicating that he would never condone the evil deeds of Linhai Island. With Chen Qingyun here this time, it will be easy to destroy Linhai Island. Taking this opportunity, we must eliminate the hidden dangers. On that day, the Shui, Lin, and Wu families gathered their men to launch a surprise attack. In order to ensure success, Chen Qingyun sent the Sea Guide and 4 Purple Mansion clones to drive 3 patrol ships together, and also dispatched 10 Luan birds. Shui Nuian suggested that in order to sneak into the Lin Island and raid it secretly, it would be better to drive several captured Lin Island spirit ships. In this way, the opponent can think that it is their own spirit ship that has returned, thus catching the opponent off guard. This proposal was quickly adopted, and 5 Lin Island spirit ships joined the expedition team and sailed at the front. In less than a day, everyone arrived at Lin Island. On the island, the monks on the watchtower saw a fleet coming, and the leading spirit ships were all from their own family, so they thought it was their own monks returning, and did not take any defensive actions. It was not until the fleet entered the waters of Lin Island, less than 3 or 4 miles away from the coastline, that they found something wrong and immediately issued an alarm. Enemy attack. It is an enemy attack. The war broke out. On Linhai Island, only the main island has a 4th-level island protection formation, which is always open. The other 15 islands have only simple defenses, with a few second-level god-killing crossbows, which can only resist the peak foundation building cultivators at most. Without Wanjiantu, the giant and cultivator, Linhai Island is leaderless, and the cultivators on the island are no match at all. No matter how powerful this fourth-level island protection formation is, it is vulnerable in front of the Sea God's clone. The Sea God's clone held the Ice Soul Trident and swung forward, shooting out 18 Ice Soul Cold Lights, breaking the island protection formation in one move and disintegrating this layer of defense. The formation was broken and completely shattered. The formation is broken. Did the other side send out giant and cultivators? Run! The faces of the cultivators on the island changed drastically, realizing that they had encountered a powerful enemy invasion, and this Linhai Island was finished. The two leading Purple Mansion monks became ants on the hot pot. They couldn't find Wanjiantu for a while. They realized that the leader must have received the news in advance and ran away, and they cursed in their hearts. But in order to protect themselves, the two could only bluff and wanted to ask about the origins of Hunyuan and others. Who are you? This is Linhai Island. Our leader is a top giant and monk. He is not easy to mess with. You are so brave. These threats are not effective at all. What can the leader of Linhai Island do here? Just kill him. The waves between the islands were surging, and the Ice Soul Trident in the hands of the Sea God's clone shone, emitting waves of hazy water blue light, reflecting the world. Accompanied by the sound of rushing water, hundreds of shrimp soldiers and crabs emerged from the sea. Each of them had the strength of the Purple Mansion. They boarded the island very quickly and easily killed the surrounding Linhai Island monks. Ah, what is this? Where did the monster come from? Several Purple Mansion cultivators on Linhai Island and a large number of foundation building cultivators turned into leaks and were killed by these shrimp soldiers and crab generals in one move, causing a series of screams. In terms of strength alone, a marine creature holding a halberd and a shield is enough to kill a late Purple Mansion cultivator. There are more than 300 marine creatures, which can completely sweep across the entire Linhai Island, not to mention the existence of the Sea God's clone. Seeing that the Sea God's clone is so powerful and can summon marine creatures to fight, Hunyuan was amazed. What kind of strength is this? It has exceeded the giant and stage and can easily break the 4th level formation. Is this a 5th level puppet? Senior Chen is amazing. I didn't expect the force sent by Chen Qingyun to be so strong. Hunyuan had originally prepared for a battle for several days and nights. Now, it was obvious that he had underestimated Chen Qingyun's means. He was more confident in his heart, and he also showed his skills and launched an offensive. According to the Sea God's clone, with the Ice Soul Trident in hand, it was enough to rely on summoning marine creatures to win this battle, and there was no need to use the weapons on the patrol ship. The other 10 phoenixes launched an offensive in the air, killing some monks who tried to escape. The attacks from the phoenixes penetrated one defensive magic weapon after another, and continued to make rumbling explosions. Huangsha Island did not send many monks, but for more than an hour, marine creatures continued to emerge from the sea, allowing Huangsha Island to maintain the upper hand and present an overwhelming victory. As dozens of Linhai Island monks were beaten to despair and controlled the spirit ship to escape, Hunyuan and others blocked their way early and started to settle accounts. At the same time, the Ice Soul Trident once again showed its power, controlling the power of the ocean to form a huge water wall, encircling the entire Lin Island, and making a prison on the spot. Under the obstruction of such a water wall, let alone the Purple Mansion cultivators, even the nascent soul cultivators could not escape for the time being. That day, Lin Island was destroyed, and Hunyuan and others captured several Lin Island cultivators alive and looted the resources and treasures on the island together. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 937, The Wall of the Sea, with Chen Qingyun's participation and the help of the divine art. These Linhai Island monks answered whatever was asked when they were interrogated. The most regrettable thing is that Wanjiantu is missing. It seems that he ran away in advance. From the previous interrogation, Qingguang and others had been in contact with Wanjiantu when they attacked Huangsha Island. They must have received the news of the defeat and knew the situation of the battle. No one on Linhai Island knew where Wanjiantu went. The divine art could not get anything out of him, so they had to give up. After completing the cleanup task, Wu Dihai, Lin Yuandao and the sea god's clone were stationed here, and left 100 monks. The rest of the people returned to Huangsha Island first, and then put the construction of Linhai Island on the agenda. At the same time, more than 60,000 miles away from the Qingguang Islands, a huge sky wind swept across the sea, covering the area of 10,000 miles. This world appeared a terrifying scene of seawater rolling back and howling winds. Countless wind blades condensed and tore the seawater, deserted islands, monsters, etc. into pieces. This sky wind came very suddenly, as if it had caused the wrath of heaven and the punishment from heaven. The entire sea area swept by the sky wind turned into a doomsday scene. Wanjiantu was still driving the flying boat a second ago, and the next second he saw the sky wind rolling around him, and he was frightened and hurried to avoid it. Unfortunately, the range of the sky wind was too large, and a giant and cultivator alone could not avoid it. Even the seawater was swept to a depth of 3,000 or 4,000 meters, and a large number of monsters were torn to pieces. Wanjiantu used the wind-fixing beads, but it still did not work. The whole person was carried and turned over, and the flying boat under his feet was torn into pieces first. No. Then, the body protecting chi and defensive magic weapons on his body were all useless and shattered one by one. Wanjiantu would never have thought that although he avoided the revenge of Huangsha Island during this escape, he encountered such a strong sky wind disaster. Retribution. When the last thought was annihilated, Wanjiantu's storage bags exploded one after another, and along with the whole person, even the golden elixir was torn apart and fell into the sea. The leader of the Linhai Island perished under the wind, and the spiritual stones and other resources he carried became opportunities and fell into the sea, waiting for the destined person to pick them up. Here, the Battle of Linhai Island came to an end. Everyone didn't know that Wanjiantu had fallen outside and was killed by heaven and earth. On the other side, Shui Nuian and the other two sorted out the spoils and handed them all over to Chen Qingyun. Senior, if it weren't for your wise leadership this time, we wouldn't have won so easily. It's a pity that Wanjiantu is missing and we don't know where he escaped to. Shui Nuian is the head of the family after all. He knows that he can't take the credit this time. The spoils received still have to be handed over to Chen Qingyun. Only Chen Qingyun opened his mouth and gave some rewards, so that they can divide them. This time, we got a lot of spoils on Linhai Island, with the most magic tools and storage bags, more than 8 million spirit stones, and a small amount of spirit talismans. In order to win people's hearts, Chen Qingyun left 3 life magic tools and gave them to Shui Yuan, Wu Dihai, and Lin Yuandao, and kept the other magic tools in his own pocket. The spirit talismans and spirit stones were not collected, and they were divided among the monks from Huangsha Island who participated in the battle, as rewards. Thank you, Senior. Shui Nuian and the other two looked very happy, and each of them accepted their life magic tools, and they will divide these spoils in the next few days. Regarding the strength displayed by the sea god's clone, Shui Nuian and the other two were still surprised in their hearts, wondering how Chen Qingyun could have such a nascent soul-level existence in his hand, and mistakenly thought it was a puppet, which was really too much. But seeing that Chen Qingyun did not mention this matter, it was not easy to ask more questions, and he left with a polite remark. After returning to Yunzai Cave, Chen Qingyun took out a number of magic weapons and asked Liu Zilin to choose first to see if there was anything she liked. Most of these magic weapons were of the 1st level, a few of the 3rd level, and 2 of the 4th level. Nothing could arouse Liu Zilin's interest. She did not choose, and took out the spoils from Zhuxiantu and checked them with Chen Qingyun. Zhuxiantu was quite wealthy, with more than 3 million spiritual stones, 6 4th level magic weapons, and more than 100 various spiritual talismans. Knowing that Chen Qingyun needed magic weapons, Liu Zilin gave all the magic weapons to Chen Qingyun, and shared some of the remaining spiritual stones, spiritual talismans, etc. with Chen Qingyun. This time, the annihilation of Linhai Island, the elimination of hidden dangers, and the acceleration of the development of Huangsha Island, and the acquisition of so many magic weapons, Chen Qingyun was quite satisfied. Chen Qingyun entered the Fudazu and decomposed all these magic weapons, accumulating 261,817 points of strengthening points. Another 3,000 enhancement points would be enough to upgrade a 4th grade superb magic weapon to a 5th grade inferior one. Keep it for now. Next, Chen Qingyun decided to take action with Baoang's clone, flew all the way out of Huangsha Island, and tried to fly to the end of the Boundary Sea to see the so-called Boundary Sea Wall. Yuanying cultivators have the ability to shuttle freely in the Boundary Sea and are not affected by natural disasters. More than a month passed like this, and after experiencing several winds and whirlpools, bypassing several space cracks, Baoang came to the end of the Boundary Sea. In the sea ahead, an endless, and space barrier extending to the left and right side stood on the sea, appearing translucent. From a distance, it looked like layers of jelly condensed, and the waves covered it, causing the space barrier at the contact position to fluctuate slightly, showing a bit of agility. This is the Boundary Sea Wall. Chen Qingyun entered the 8 wastelands and flew to the Boundary Sea Wall to check it out. He found that it contained a mysterious force of space law. When the divine consciousness came into contact with it, it would be blocked and could not penetrate. Looking at the back of the Boundary Sea Wall, it was still a vast ocean, and the outline of the land could not be seen. Obviously, the Boundary Sea Wall was not on the coastline of the mainland, and a sea area was reserved. The outline of the mainland could not be seen from here. Chen Qingyun's expression condensed and tried to attack. Whether it was a spell or a magic weapon attack, it would be absorbed by this Boundary Sea Wall. Looking at this posture, this thing is very powerful. It's really impossible to force it in. At least the nascent soul cultivators don't have this strength. It seems that it's safest to take the teleportation array to the mainland. After seeing the Boundary Sea Wall, Chen Qingyun stayed for a while, and then returned to Huangsha Island. In the 2nd month, when Linhai Island was completely under his control, Chen Qingyun summoned the 3 clan leaders Shui Yuan, Wu Dihai, and Lin Yuan Dao, and prepared to lead the 3 to Xinghai. When they learned that they could use the teleportation array, the 3 were overjoyed and prepared some resources on the same day for easy exchange at the Chen family. Chapter 938. The Path of the Old Patriarch. Shui Yuan also brought the topaz stone and the share of the sea crystal vein promised to Chen Qingyun and handed them over to Chen Qingyun. The next day, the teleportation array in the Yunzai cave mansion was opened, and the 3 clan leaders, led by Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin, were teleported to Zhenhai Island. Then they took the teleportation array again and arrived at Lingjian Island. The 3 people felt very novel when they set foot in the Starry Sea and came to the Chen family for the first time. After seeing Chen Xianming, they all behaved very politely, just like the younger generation visiting the elders, observing the rules and knowing etiquette. Chen Qingyun did not need to worry about how to receive the 3 guest elders Shui Yuan. Just let Chen Xianming receive them. Because he had captured the killer whale beast before, Chen Qingyun exchanged it for the family for the subsequent construction of the spirit ship, and obtained 120,000 merits. In addition, Chen Qingyun noticed that the demon pills reserved for the family had been exchanged by the clan members, which were worth about 300,000 merits. These merits are not useful for the time being, and there are no resources of interest in the family. Chen Qingyun paid attention to the cultivation status of the clan members, and several foundation-building cultivators and 2 purple mansion cultivators emerged. With the help of great wilderness-devouring demon art, Chen Qingyun and Chen Qingguang successfully opened up the purple mansion and held a small celebration banquet, inviting some relatives and friends to attend. Then there were Chen Xianmiao and Chen Qingda, one of the Sea generation and one of the Jin generation, who successfully built their foundations, adding 4 new foundation-building cultivators. Among them, Chen Xianmiao built his foundation by himself without using foundation building pills and monster resources, and his future is bright. In addition, there was also news among the elders that made Chen Qingyun happy. Chen Daoran successfully formed a golden pill in the family, and he successfully formed a golden pill once. Recently, he began to focus on the 5th level weapon refiner. Chen Daolan's cultivation has also increased, reaching the peak of the Purple Mansion period, and he is also preparing to retreat to form a pill soon, which is worth looking forward to. In terms of alchemy, Chen Daolan's achievements are even more remarkable. He has made rapid progress in recent years and has reached the 5th level middle grade. After chatting with Chen Daolan, the old man was sleek and had a feeling of being very proud. He has begun to try to refine several more 5th level pills to benefit the family's golden elixir cultivators. There is also Chen Qingyun, whose cultivation has advanced to the late stage of Zaifu. He is currently preparing to continue exchanging monster resources to condense the golden elixir as soon as possible. At present, among the Chen clan members, there are 4 golden elixir cultivators: Chen Xianming, Chen Daoran, Chen Qingyun, and Chen Qingyun. It is particularly worth mentioning that Chen Xianming has now broken through to the peak of the golden elixir and can already plan to form an infant. For this reason, the old patriarch also specially found Chen Qingyun and asked for some experience. Chen Qingyun told everything he knew and taught carefully, and the old patriarch listened very carefully. When it comes to the final step of condensing the nascent soul, Chen Qingyun suggested, if you are not in a hurry, you may as well condense the nascent soul about 20 years later. Chen Xianming showed a puzzled look and asked, "Oh, what do you mean?" Chen Qingyun said, "The training of the outer domain fairy palace will be opened soon. Perhaps there will be Xuanying earth marrow, Mother Earth Qi, Earth Core purple jade and other treasures for condensing the nascent soul, which can help you condense the earth vein nascent soul. As long as you start better than others, you will have an advantage in future practice. What do you think?" When mentioning the outer domain fairy palace, Chen Xianming thought of this matter, although he didn't know when the fairy palace would be opened and what would be there. But as long as Chen Qingyun said it, the possibility was 9 out of 10, and he would choose to believe it very clearly. With my qualifications, it's beyond my expectation to be able to reach this point today. If I can go one step further and condense the nascent soul, I will be satisfied. Why would I dare to condense the nascent soul of the earth vein? The old patriarch smiled self-deprecatingly. He no longer had the blood and energy of his youth and dared to compete with the gods. He would pursue more pragmatism. Knowing that the old patriarch's achievements today are already very outstanding, Chen Qingyun still suggested, "How do you know if you don't try? With your current cultivation, it will take another 10 to 20 years to polish the foundation of nascent soul. If there is a chance to condense the nascent soul of the earth vein, it will be a good thing for the family. I hope you can go further in the future." With Chen Qingyun's suggestion, Chen Xianming nodded slowly. "Okay, I hope that my old bones can also have this opportunity." After coming out of the old patriarch's cave, Chen Qingyun returned to Zhenhai Island and prepared to start practicing in seclusion. There are still 14 years before the opening of the outer domain palace. Looking at his current cultivation, he has a chance to reach the late nascent soul stage. Chen Qingyun decided to retreat for about 10 years. He informed Liu Zilin of this idea. Liu Zilin showed her expectation and said, "There are still 14 years before the opening of the outer domain palace. If the news brought by Senior Xingzun is true, we must not miss this good opportunity." Liu Zilin also had a scroll of the Palace of Immortals in her hand. In order to catch up with Chen Qingyun, she resolutely gave up the Snow Spirit Fairy Dew and chose the scroll of the Palace of Immortals. Now, hearing Chen Qingyun mention the news of the outer domain palace, she felt a strong expectation in her heart, hoping to gain something in the Palace of Immortals and break through the nascent soul stage as soon as possible. There are several secluded palaces in this world, as well as the things about the spiritual domain continent. Chen Qingyun told Liu Zilin about it. Liu Zilin was slightly surprised when she learned about this. Several secluded palaces, even one on the spiritual domain continent. After the opening of the outer domain palace, there will be cultivators from the mainland participating in it. When the fight breaks out, I wonder what the scene will be like. Yes, Chen Qingyun said, and according to what Xingzun said, there will be cultivators from the Purple Mansion stage to the Nascent Soul stage participating. In this case, the rules for participating in other secluded immortal palaces are different from this one here. The participants of the secluded immortal palace and the 10,000 monsters are all cultivators below the golden core stage. If it is true as Xingzun said, there will be nascent soul stage cultivators participating in the outer domain palace at that time. Then it is enough to show that other secluded immortal palaces allow golden core cultivators, or even nascent soul cultivators, to participate. In this way, the opportunities in each secluded immortal palace may be different. After all, they are the reflections of the outer domain palace. There are very few people like Chen Qingyun who quickly break through the golden core stage after the training in the immortal palace, and then rise straight to the nascent soul stage. Most cultivators only advanced 1 to 3 realms in the past 100 years, and their progress was not as fast as Chen Qingyun '. With Yuanying cultivators participating in the outer domain immortal palace, the competitiveness is much greater. And there must be no shortage of treasures. Maybe there are really treasures for the formation of infants, or even 6th level resources. Chapter 939, Cultivation level is promoted. The Immortal Palace is opened. Chen Qingyun shared everything he knew with Liu Zilin. The two walked on the beach and chatted for more than an hour. At Chen Qingyun's suggestion, Liu Zilin took Chen Qingyun to Lingjian Island and entered the Wudao Wuxing Wall to practice. In order to go to the outer fairy palace later, she first consolidated her strength. Chen Qingyun has recently shown a trend of breaking through the bottleneck and is ready to break through to the middle stage of the golden elixir. In the blessed land bead and water spirit vein, Chen Qingyun tried to impact the late stage of the nascent soul. He had taken the holy infant pill before and increased his mana for 50 years. This time, he practiced in seclusion and had a very high chance of breaking through. There were still a lot of top-grade spirit stones on him, more than 700 in total. Chen Qingyun took out some of them for breaking through. Top-grade spirit stones are of great benefit to the practice of nascent soul cultivators. In this aspect of practice, Chen Qingyun was willing to invest and use water spirit veins and top-grade spirit stones to assist in practice. After the training in the outer palace is over, you can try to refine and strengthen some magic tools that can assist in cultivation. The formation and the way of refining tools will be slowed down for the time being. The most important thing now is to improve your strength. In this way, immersed in cultivation, he didn't know the time passed. One by one, the top-grade spirit stones were absorbed by Chen Qingyun, filling the nascent soul. Spring went and autumn came, the sun rose and set. Time passed in a flash, and 11 years passed in a blink of an eye. On this day, as the 52nd top-grade spirit stone was absorbed and refined, the nascent soul in Chen Qingyun's body shook slightly, and the aura on his body began to rise. The bottleneck of cultivation was broken at this moment, and he successfully entered the late nascent soul stage, and his Tao body and soul were further strengthened. The late nascent soul stage finally broke through. Chen Qingyun looked happy, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He carefully felt the power brought by the realm breakthrough. The next moment, he realized that one of his life magic tools had also been improved. Baoang appeared, and the Flame Emperor bell flew out of his body, turning into a human-sized one, suspended in front of him, with a red-gold light flowing on its surface, revealing bursts of heat and a heavy metal feeling. Since the Flame Emperor bell has been nurtured, this magic weapon has finally improved significantly and reached the level of a mid-grade spiritual treasure. This Flame Emperor bell is quite special, and it can promote the grade through the cultivation of the cultivator. According to Baoang's peak nascent soul cultivation, it is enough to continue to improve to the level of a top-grade spiritual treasure, and it takes time to nurture and promote. The improvement of cultivation and spiritual treasure made Chen Qingyun happy. After calculating the time, 11 years had passed. After coming out of retreat that day, he saw Mo Ling coming towards him. As Chen Qingyun's spiritual beast, Mo Ling could feel Chen Qingyun's improvement in strength, and was excited at the first time. "Master, you have broken through to the late nascent soul, congratulations." Mo Ling happily congratulated. Chen Qingyun smiled and said, "Time flies so fast. I have been in seclusion for 11 years this time. In 3 years, I will go to the outer fairy palace." After not seeing each other for 11 years, Chen Qingyun paid attention to Mo Ling. He saw that Mo Ling had changed from the original immature boy image to a calmer one, and his height was much taller than before. The strands of golden hair in his hair were restrained now, and he lost some of his personality, which made him look a little low-key. Chen Qingyun did not influence what image Mo Ling would transform into. Mo Ling would try a few images for the sake of novelty, and then find the one he liked the most. Chen Qingyun also asked about Mo Ling's race, and Mo Ling shook his head. "I don't know either. I didn't get anything in the secluded Immortal Palace before. Do I really have to wait until I go to the Outer Fairy Palace to solve this mystery?" Speaking of the Outer Fairy Palace, Chen Qingyun said, 4 years later, you will go to the Outer Fairy Palace with me. This mystery may need to be solved by yourself. Mo Ling said confidently, "Okay." Since breaking through the nascent soul stage, Mo Ling has undergone many changes. He is more handy in using thunder and can use it freely. He can even absorb various thunders in the world and store them in the nascent soul. This ability is naturally friendly to the power of thunder attributes. I think it comes from the thunder attribute Spirit Beast clan. What kind of specific one it is, we will have to wait and see. Mo Ling continued to move around outside, going to various major markets to see the world and experience the different feelings brought by the transformation. Chen Qingyun took out the Fairy Palace scroll and took a closer look, and found that there was still nothing displayed on it. There are still 4 years to go. Why is there still no disclosure? If they don't even reveal where the outer domain palace is, how can I participate? Chen Qingyun couldn't help but smile bitterly. He wanted to ask Xingzun again, but Xingzun didn't reveal it last time, so he must not rush this matter. Let's see what God wills. Chen Qingyun began to spend his energy on refining weapons. Time passed quickly, and it was the winter of the 3rd year in a blink of an eye. After 3 years of hard work, the weapon refining skills were improved again, reaching the 5th grade upper level, and a top-grade spiritual treasure was refined. The spiritual treasure is a defensive spiritual treasure. After decomposition, Chen Qingyun strengthened the Zhuxiantu to the upper level, and the power increased by nearly 2 times. After leaving the retreat, Liu Zilin also gained something, and the weapon refining skills reached the 5th grade middle level. The two exchanged their experiences in refining weapons and supported each other. Looking at Chen Qingyun again, after 13 years of practice, his cultivation has improved further and reached the middle stage of the golden elixir. The qualifications of the heavenly spiritual roots are progressing very fast. 3 days passed in a blink of an eye. On this day, another good news appeared. The Immortal Palace scroll finally responded. On this day, Liu Zilin found Chen Qingyun with the Immortal Palace scroll and showed it to Chen Qingyun. On the scroll of the Immortal Palace, golden array patterns appeared one after another. If you feel it carefully, you can find that it contains strong spatial power. A message came from above and accurately entered the minds of Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin. Space Talisman? Chen Qingyun's expression moved. Looking at the scroll of the Immortal Palace again, he could actually feel the spatial power revealed in it. The information that entered his mind was very brief and intuitive. Using divine thoughts to communicate and enter the scroll of the Immortal Palace, you can be transferred to the Immortal Palace outside the domain in an instant. This is the content of the information, which guides how to use the scroll of the Immortal Palace and how to go to the Immortal Palace outside the domain. Liu Zilin finally understood now, and a look of joy appeared on her face. Qingyun, it turns out that this Fairy Palace scroll can be used to teleport to the Outer Fairy Palace directly. We were confused before, but we didn't expect this. Yes, compared with the Fairy Palace Jade card, this thing has not given a hint until now. Chen Qingyun smiled and said, "Are you ready for this trip to the Outer Fairy Palace? Let's go together." "Yes, sure. I have recently broken through to the late giant stage and can go with you at any time." Chen Qingyun, Chen Qingyun, and Chen Qingyun informed that they were going on a long trip and would not be back for a short time. That day, Chen Qingyun called Mo Ling and Liu Zilin together, ready to use the Fairy Palace scroll and go to the Outer Fairy Palace together. Chapter 940, The Outer Palace, where all of the strong gather. 2 Immortal Palace scrolls floated in the air, unfolding like a painting in front of them, with milky white halos reflected on them, turning into a teleportable space door. The two looked at each other and smiled, then let the light emanating from it shine on them. Then the light flashed, and the two figures disappeared into the Fairy Palace scrolls. It was somewhat similar to riding a teleportation array, which could teleport thousands of miles away in an instant. As the two of them entered, the Immortal Palace scroll also moved with it, shining slightly before disappearing into the void. What caught his eyes was a spinning scene, and the colorful stream of light in front of him disappeared in an instant. When Chen Qingyun took a closer look, he found that he had appeared in the Boundary Sea. At this time, the surrounding air was full of salty and humid ocean smell, and there were waves of sea breeze blowing on my face. Liu Zilin beside her also noticed this and looked around. At this moment, 2 Fairy Palace scrolls appeared one after another and fell into the hands of the 2 people accurately. During this space teleportation, the 2 of them did not feel any dizziness, and the experience was pretty good. Being able to feel this way is obviously protected by some kind of power and able to complete this transmission safely. Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin, the 2 weapon refiners, were amazed by such a mysterious Immortal Palace scroll. It was worthy of being made by the founder of Huaxian sect. After he calmed down his thoughts and put away the Immortal Palace scroll, he saw figures flashing in the surrounding sea, and monks teleported here, apparently teleported by the Immortal Palace scroll. Eyes focused on Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin, looking at their origins. Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin were close together, looking like a couple of gods and immortals, and they also noticed the monks around them. These monks all have strange faces, dressed in different styles, some are male and some female, and most of them are middle-aged. Chen Qingyun took a general glance, and his eyes were quickly attracted by another scene. Only 300 or 400 meters in front of him, a huge palace appeared not far away, half hidden in layers of white clouds, presenting an extraordinary scene like a fairy palace above the clouds. It is majestic and majestic, covering an area of the world, as if the 9 heavens Immortal Palace has fallen into the mortal world. The end of the Immortal Palace cannot be seen at a glance, and it does not look like a building that can appear in this world. This was the initial impression that the foreign Immortal Palace brought to Chen Qingyun. Compared to the first time I saw the reclusive world Immortal Mansion, I was a little more shocked. As a nascent soul cultivator, Chen Qingyun actually felt very small when he was in such a majestic and magnificent fairy palace located above the white clouds, as if he was looking up to the heaven of the fairy family. There are many magnificent buildings and gorgeous palaces in Lingbao Mountain, which have attracted the admiration of some new disciples. Even Liu Zilin, who has experienced a lot, is also shocked by the scene of this foreign fairy palace. When the 2 of them calmed down their thoughts, they looked around carefully again. Dozens of figures have gathered here, most of them are standing alone, far away from the people around them, and they are all looking at the scene of the fairy palace not far away. Among these people, Nangong Yuang's figure also appeared. Nangong Yuang was also looking around and noticed many powerful auras around him, including the Golden Core Cultivator and the nascent soul-old monster, and his heart tightened subconsciously. When he saw Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin also appeared here, he hesitated for a while and chose to move closer to the 2 of them. We haven't seen each other for many years. Nangong Yuang is still at the top of the Zaifu. The number 1 Zaifu in the Xinghai is still the same. Chen Qingyun didn't pay attention to Nangong Yuang's actions, and his attention was first attracted by the figures around him. Perhaps out of vigilance or deterrence, most of the monks who were teleported here released their own auras, like ferocious beasts frightening the surroundings and guarding their territory. These figures are both male and female, and their ages are between young and old. The lowest cultivation level is in the late Zaifu period, and the highest level is even a peak nascent soul monk. Chen Qingyun focused on those nascent soul cultivators and found that many of them wore strange clothes and distinctive styles, and their aura was somewhat different from that of the inner sea cultivators. Mainland monk. Those people should be what Zhongzun said, the monks from the spirit realm continent, with a sense of mystery that is completely different from the aura of the inner sea monks. Judging from the auras revealed, there are as many as 12 nascent soul monks appearing here, more than half of whom are mainland monks. Sensing Chen Qingyun's gaze, one of them, a middle-aged man wearing a light golden robe with a majestic expression, looked directly at Chen Qingyun. It was this moment when they looked at each other, more than 300 meters apart. Chen Qingyun felt like he was staring at a bright sun, which was a bit dazzling, and he couldn't help but squint his eyes. The feeling this person brings is very powerful. He is definitely not a thing in the pool. His eyes are fiery and sharp. At first glance, he is a top powerhouse, a being at the level of an elder. Not long after arriving, he met a powerful man of this level. This made Chen Qingyun wary of the next Immortal Palace and his party, but also a little more looking forward to it. Even the peak nascent soul cultivators can be attracted here. One can imagine that there will be some good things in the Immortal Palace. While he was looking at it, an old man's voice sounded. "Well, I'm talking about you, the leader of the Sea Alliance. The three saints of ice and sea usually see the dragon but not the tail. You are like a young lady who doesn't show up easily. How could you be willing to show your face today?" There was a strong sense of ridicule in this tone, and the speaker was an old man in green with gray hair on his temples. This greeting immediately attracted the attention of the whole audience and attracted a lot of eyes. The man called High Da Alliance leader was the middle-aged man in the golden robe. Just as he withdrew his gaze from Chen Qingyun, he was teased again. High Alliance leader raised his eyebrows and spoke. "Last time, a few old bones from your fake Qing sect came uninvited and broke into my Three Saints Alliance territory to grab some 9-bearded spiritual ginseng. I haven't settled accounts with you for this matter, but now you have delivered it to me." This response caused the green-clothed old man to laugh and stroke his beard on his chin. Hee, why does High Alliance leader hold a grudge? I have already scolded those junior brothers in my sect. They have already made up their minds and changed their ways. There is no need to mention these old things. Whether he scolded his junior brothers or not was just one-sided. High Alliance leader would never believe such words. He snorted coldly and stopped talking. Chen Qingyun listened to this exchange and couldn't help but murmur in his heart. Three Saints Alliance, Dharma sect. There is no record of these two forces in the inner sea. It seems that they belong to the sects of the mainland's immortal cultivation world. At this time, there was another sound of breaking through the air not far away, and three figures appeared almost at the same time, revealing two old people and one young person. Chapter 941 Taoist King Zhu, Granny Sanhua. Chen Qingyun looked over and saw that the two old men were a man and a woman, and they looked like a couple. The man looked energetic, with bright eyes and a palm leaf fan in his hand. The woman was an old lady, kind and amiable. In the middle of the two was a young girl. The girl was wearing a beautiful black dress, which outlined her slender and graceful figure. She looked bright-eyed and white-toothed, and had a sense of bright and charming, which was pleasing to the eye. Some people looked at the bright girl, and when they noticed the cultivation aura of the two old men beside the girl, they immediately retracted their gazes like mice seeing a cat, and did not dare to act trashly. The sea leader and the old man of the fake Qing sect also looked at the three people. The old man of the fake Qing sect exclaimed in surprise, changing his previous teasing tone, frowning slightly and muttering to himself, "Master King Zhu, Granny Sanhua, why are these two old monsters here too?" As soon as he finished speaking, his eyes fell on the bright and beautiful girl in the middle, and the old man of the fake Qing sect was amazed again. "The exquisite little girl is here too, no wonder, no wonder." His muttering could not be hidden from the ears of the Hunyuan cultivators present. The old Taoist King Zhu and Granny Sanhua heard the words and looked at the old man of the fake Qing sect at the same time, causing the old man of the fake Qing sect to squeeze out a smile, pretending to greet him and taking the initiative to greet him. Fellow Taoists Qingzu and Sanhua, what wind has brought you two elders here? I have heard of your great names for a long time. This scene caused many people around to see the situation clearly, and there was more fear in their eyes when they looked at the old Taoist Qingzu and the other two. Chen Qingyun could not help but secretly take a closer look at the three Taoists, Qingzu, and realized that they had a good background and could not be underestimated. When he greeted the leader of the Three Saints Alliance, who was at the peak of the nascent soul and showed off his majesty, the Taoist of the Qingguang sect did not show much fear and could even make a joke. But in front of the Taoist of Qingzu and the Three-Flower Granny, his behavior was much more restrained, and he even called himself I. This attitude was enough to show the status of the two people, who must be above the old man of the Qingguang sect. As expected, the next scene confirmed this point. I only heard the Taoist of Qingzu say, "Who am I?" It turns out to be Han Zhuxiantu, a Taoist friend of the Qingguang sect. I haven't seen you for more than 30 years. You have finally been promoted to the peak of the nascent soul and did not waste the 9-bearded Ganoderma. When saying this, the Taoist of Qingzu did not forget to glance at the leader of the High Alliance, who secretly curled his lips and did not mean to greet him. This greeting immediately linked the Three Saints Alliance and the Dharma Appearances sect together again. Everyone present could not understand that the 9-bearded spiritual ginseng mentioned by the Taoist Qingzu was the one mentioned by the Sea Alliance leader before. This brought up the grudges between the Three Saints Alliance and the Dharma Appearances sect again, which was a bit like igniting gunpowder. Hearing this, Han Zhuxiantu glanced at the Sea Alliance leader, and then looked at the Taoist Qingzu, and smiled modestly. Haha, Taoist Qingzu's vision is still so sharp. I was able to break through the realm successfully, but I was lucky to get the help of the 9-bearded spiritual ginseng. If we really talk about achievements and attainments, I am still far behind you. The Taoist Qingzu did not like to listen to this kind of polite words. He glanced at the several nascent soul cultivators around him, and saw a few familiar faces. He paid attention to them secretly, but did not greet them. When his eyes fell on Han Zhuxiantu again, he deliberately said loudly, "This time the Immortal Palace is open. The two of us will also go in and take a walk. If you are interested, Han Deu, when you meet my granddaughter to take the treasure, you might as well give in to the younger generation." As soon as the old Taoist Qingzu finished speaking, the Sanhua Granny, who had not spoken a word, slowly spoke at this time. "My granddaughter has been spoiled by me. If there is any offense, please forgive her and don't argue with her." The tone sounded polite, but the domineering charm in it was obvious. Who was a simple person present, how could they not understand the meaning of Sanhua Granny's words? "If you have any problems, go to them." This old Taoist Qingzu and Sanhua Granny are really domineering. I don't know what they are on the mainland. Chen Qingyun thought to himself that even if they communicated through voice transmission at this time, they might not be able to hide it from the ears of these Yuanying cultivators. Han Zhuxiantu still smiled when he heard this, and said, okay, I think this little friend Ling Long is extremely talented, and he must be a person with extraordinary circumstances. His future achievements will definitely be better than mine. Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin heard the conversation of these people, and they felt that it was all about human relationships and they needed to make their positions clear. If they said something wrong and offended the other party here, they might have to fight after entering the Immortal Palace, and no one would be polite. According to the current situation, the three Taoists Qingzu should be the strongest group, followed by the leader of the Three Saints Alliance, and then Han Zhuxiantu. Of course, it is not ruled out that there are hidden strongmen who are low-key and have hidden dragons and crouching tigers who have not shown their strength at this moment. Chen Qingyun secretly paid attention to the actions of these people, and Liu Zilin did the same, looking at the bright girl from time to time. Although the girl's strength is only in the early stage of the golden core, because she is protected by the two old men Qingzu and Sanhua, even the Yuanying cultivators dare not easily take action. In a short period of time, 4 nascent soul cultivators at the peak of their powers gathered here. This lineup was beyond expectations. Next, from time to time, there were cultivators who came from the scroll of the Immortal Palace, Everyone looked at them one by one to see who they were. Those in the Purple Mansion stage and the Golden Core stage were just glanced at and not paid too much attention. Only the nascent soul cultivators would attract attention. Among these people, Chen Qingyun saw the Qingguang and Shui Po. The Qingguang and Shui Po of the Binghai sect are here too. Liu Zilin and Chen Qingyun said in a voice transmission, following the Qingguang and Shui Po. The last time they went to Huanhai to participate in the Wanbao conference, they had seen the Qingguang and Shui Po. At that time, Zhuang Suzi of the Qingxi sect and Kanaiu Fairy of Huanaiu Palace were also on the same stage. In terms of strength, the Qingguang and Shui Po are both in the middle stage of the nascent soul. At the same time as Liu Zilin's voice transmission, the leader of the Sea and the old Taoist King Zhu caught this voice transmission, slightly side-eyed, and looked at the Qingguang and Shui Po. Seeing that the two were only in the middle stage of the nascent soul, they ignored them and pondered over themselves, as if waiting for the arrival of a strong person of the same level. The memory of the nascent soul cultivators is very good. Qingguang and Shui Po only glanced at the crowd and recognized Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin at a glance, and had some impression in their minds. Hey, these two people actually have such an opportunity. Shui Po was surprised and couldn't help but look at Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin more, and Qingguang also looked at them. Chapter 942 Six-Wing Frost Centipede. Having only met Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin once, Qingguang and Shui Po remembered their auras and looks. I saw it here today, which surprised Shui Po. There are still many talented people in this inner sea. Seeing the nascent soul cultivator who once felt superior, Chen Qingyun remained calm and had no intention of greeting Qingguang and Shui Po. Liu Zilin did the same. She just glanced at Qingguang and Shui Po and then looked away. In this place where powerful people gather, who knows who has hatred between them? It would not be a good idea to form relationships at will and cause unnecessary trouble. There is no reason to greet someone just by chance. After waiting for a while, another inner sea monk who had met once before came through. This man looked like an experienced Taoist. Zhuang Zuzi from Qingxi sect also appeared on the stage, and took the initiative to lean towards Mr. Shui and Po Shui, and exchanged polite words. However, this person was quite aloof as the Wanbao conference at that time and did not remember the images and auras of Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin. He did not recognize them when they met again. Among the inner sea monks, Chen Qingyun has already seen 4 of them he knows. There are also some other monks from the Liling Sea and the Misty Blood Sea, but they don't know them. Currently, one can sense the difference between the monks in the inner sea and those on the mainland from their aura, and can tell the difference. After waiting for about a stick of incense, when the 12th monk appeared on the stage, a strange rustling sound came from the ripples in the space. The sound sounded like some kind of giant insect moving and crawling. Chen Qingyun's expression changed, and he and Liu Zilin looked at the direction of the strange sound at the same time. As the rustling sound became more and more obvious, a huge figure emerged from the space and turned into a huge spiritual insect. I saw that the spirit beast was 20 to 30 feet in size, with black, blue and white colors all over its body, a thick black carapace, dozens of slender legs, sharp serrations in its mouth, and a blue and white abdomen. 2 colors. The most eye-catching thing is the 3 pairs of cicada-like wings growing on the back of the head, which are 3 to 4 feet in size when stretched out. This is a large centipede. It looks majestic and ferocious, but it also has 6 wings. It is definitely not an ordinary spiritual insect. Looking at the head of this big centipede, there is a rough-looking man in black robes standing proudly, with his arms wrapped around his chest, looking arrogant and unrestrained. 6-winged, frost centipede. I don't know who screamed, which broke the originally silent atmosphere. Han Zixun squinted his eyes and looked back and forth at the 6-winged frost centipede with a look of envy. When he looked at the rough and arrogant man above him, he immediately frowned again, with deep fear in his heart. Before anyone could speak, the big man grinned and said loudly, "Leader Hai, old Taoist King Zhu, Granny Sanhua, and old man Han. Ha ha ha. I guess that you would come. It's all because of that treasure." As soon as these words came out, the Sea Alliance leader raised his eyebrows but did not respond. "Brother, Hong, you are here too." The old Taoist Qingzu smiled, greeted with a kind look, and then looked at the six-winged frost centipede. Since we last saw each other in Tangsu Secret Realm, which we haven't seen for more than 100 years, Brother Li's six-winged frost centipede has become more and more lifelike, much more powerful than before. If this is cultivated for tens or even hundreds of years, I'm afraid I will be able to peek into that realm. These words changed the topic, obviously because he didn't want the big man surnamed Hong to talk about the treasure anymore, so it was tacit agreement between the two of them. Even the spiritual beasts are at the peak of nascent soul. This person's strength is probably even greater. I don't know where he comes from. Chen Qingyun secretly looked at the big man named Hong, and could feel that his aura was not weaker than any of the peak nascent soul cultivators present. Chen Qingyun had seen this six-winged frost centipede in the ancient books of the Five Elements sect. This insect is an ancient spiritual insect. Its bloodline can reach the 5th level. It can release terrifying frost poison and freeze to obliterate its prey. It is also very agile and has the power to fly into the sky and escape into the sea. Adult six-winged frost centipedes have 6 wings, while juveniles have 2 to 4 wings, which is easy to distinguish. It would take at least 500 years to cultivate such a spiritual beast to adulthood, and it would take countless treasures from heaven and earth to be fed. This kind of training method is definitely not something that ordinary monks can provide. I guess this big man named Hong has a lot of background. When his spirit beast was praised, the man surnamed Hong was not modest. A proud look appeared on his face and he smiled. This is my family's treasure. Naturally, it needs to be nurtured well. If it can be advanced to the 6th level bloodline in the future, that would be great. After saying that, the big man surnamed Hong glanced at the pretty girl and said, "You two old bones really prefer the younger generation. You are willing to bring your precious granddaughter here to experience together. It is rare to see you leave Ling Valley on weekdays." This time I obtained 3 fairy palace scrolls at once. Only you in Ling Valley have this ability. It is really enviable. 3 Immortal Palace Scrolls. As soon as these words came out, some people immediately sighed secretly. It is not easy to obtain an Immortal Palace Scroll in the Immortal Palace of the Immortal World. It requires passing all the tests and making choices. The person who can obtain this thing must be a person of extraordinary strength. Definitely the best in the same level. Even if you exchange, purchase, or even rob it from others later, you must have enough strength. Who is willing to give up the opportunity to participate in the foreign fairy palace to others? Haha, whatever your ability is, it all depends on chance. Old Taoist Qingzu said with a smile, and did not mention where these 3 Immortal Palace Scrolls came from, but changed the subject. Fellow Taoist Hong rarely shows up. You beast-controlling sect monks are always so mysterious. When we meet today, we will have the opportunity to learn from each other in the future. I want to learn a lesson and see if the 6-winged frost centipede is really that powerful. The big man surnamed Hong didn't have so many tricks. He laughed along with Qingzu's words and said, "I have thought about it for a long time. When I see the treasure, I will not be merciful." After a few words of conversation, Chen Qingyun became more and more curious. What did that treasure refer to? It seems that this is not the first time for these nascent soul monks to enter the Immortal Palace outside the territory. In other words, they still have some information in advance and know the specific opportunities in the Immortal Palace. After waiting for a while, 6 more monks arrived, bringing the number to 106. 89% of these people were participating for the first time. When they first arrived, they saw everyone gathered here and did not act rashly. Instead, while waiting patiently, he looked at the fairy palace in front of him from time to time and observed the behavior of other participants. Chapter 943 White Crane Immortal Palace Rules. The cultivators present subconsciously followed the leader of the Sea Alliance, Han Zhuxiantu, and the Taoist couple Qingzu, who were at the peak of the nascent soul stage, and waited for what to do next. The outer domain fairy palace was still located on the white clouds. As time passed, a large amount of clouds and mist drifted away, making it look more magnificent. Looking at the location of the palace door, It was still tightly closed, and a layer of mysterious restrictions was laid on it, blocking the cultivator's spiritual sense to explore. The existence of this restriction made everyone reluctant to touch it, and no one dared to break it violently, so as not to be attacked by the crowd. Everyone waited patiently for a while, waiting for the outer domain fairy palace to open by itself. About half an hour later, the tightly closed palace door finally moved, and the restrictions on it flashed slightly, and then there was a sound of metal gears turning. The fairy palace is open, open. A Lei Ling Hai family cultivator said with joy, looked at everyone, and then flew towards the palace door impatiently. The leader of the Sea Alliance looked normal, gently stroked his sleeves, turned into a stream of light and began to move. Follow. The old Taoist King Zhu called out softly, calling his granddaughter and his wife to move together, and flew towards the palace gate. Other cultivators around followed suit, and at once transformed into hundreds of streams of light and entered in a line. Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin looked at each other, followed by Shui Gong Shui Po and Zhuang Suzi, and Nangong Yuang behind them also followed. Flying through the palace gate, a layer of water wave-like restrictions appeared in front. After the cultivator touched this restriction, the fairy palace scroll he carried flashed, and then he passed through without any hindrance. The purpose of this restriction is to detect whether all participants have the fairy palace scroll. If not, they will be blocked outside. Moreover, each fairy palace scroll only allows one person to enter, and the power other than the original body, such as spirit beasts, clones, and puppets, is not restricted. According to the methods of the Yuanying cultivators, there was no way to forcefully break the ban and enter. The scene in front of him changed, and pavilions, towers, corridors and stairs appeared around him. There were faint mists in the air, which made people feel relaxed and comfortable. Han Zixuan took the lead and flew straight to the magnificent stairs in front of him. There were a total of 9,981 stairs, leading directly to a more majestic palace door above. What was more peculiar was that there was a large area in front of the palace door that was suspended in the air, in which a huge stone platform was suspended. This stone platform was simple and ancient in shape, and there were also restrictions around it to protect this area. The cultivators could set foot on it. Everyone flew straight over the 9,981 stairs, followed Han Zixuan's footsteps, and slowly landed on the stone platform to look around. Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin also stepped onto the stone platform and looked at the big man surnamed Hong. They saw that the other party was still riding the six-winged frost centipede, which made no one dare to step into the surrounding area within a dozen meters. Hai Mengzhu, Han Zixuan, and even King Zulaodao all looked calm and waited for something. They did not make the next move for the time being. Some cultivators saw the palace door in front and wanted to enter it, but found that there was also a restriction. The difference is that the restriction is a big door, which seems to need to wait until a specific time to open. On both sides of the palace door, there are two stone statues of Kailan, which look mighty and majestic, full of solemnity. Many people looked at each other and guessed that they would have to wait for a while. After entering this forbidden door, they would enter the fairy palace. Another point is that there are no rules in this fairy palace, what should be paid attention to, and even the topographic map, etc. These are still unknown. Do we have to explore all these by ourselves? There was a lot of information to share when participating in the training of the secluded immortal mansion before. Most of those who can come here are calm and steady, each with their own means and confidence. At this time, they can keep calm and don't ask casually. Instead, they continue to pay attention to the actions of Han Zixuan, Hai Mengzhu and other Yuanying masters. In this way, after waiting for about an incense stick of time, several white cranes slowly flew out of the forbidden door, and a white-haired old man sat on one of the white cranes. This person has a childlike face and white hair, a fairy-like appearance, a white robe, and came on a white crane. No matter who looks at it at first glance, it can match the image of the immortal in their minds. For a while, the appearance of this immortal man immediately became the focus of the whole audience. Chen Qingyun took a closer look and found that the other party, like the three white cranes, was not a real person, but a phantom, Similar to the immortal old man in the secluded immortal mansion. The atmosphere fell into silence, and many eyes fell on this immortal man. The next moment, the other party showed a faint smile, glanced at everyone, and slowly spoke. "Everyone, welcome to the Ultra Domain Fairy Palace. I have been waiting for a long time at the Shenglong Tai. I am the ruler of this fairy palace. Next, I will introduce the rules of this place in detail to you. Please listen carefully and strictly abide by them." As soon as the immortal old man spoke, no one interrupted him, and they all listened attentively. Only a few second-time visitors closed their eyes and waited for the next step. Seeing everyone listening quietly, the immortal old man smiled slightly, and his voice slowly sounded. "The Outer Domain Fairy Palace opens once every 100 years. Only Yuan cultivators are allowed to participate, and the minimum requirement is the Purple Mansion stage. The entire Immortal Palace is divided into 4 major areas, from outside to inside. They are the Black Fire Desert, the Ice Wave Waters, the Forest of 10,000 Beasts, and the Inner Palace of the Immortal Palace. Private fighting is prohibited in the first 3 areas, the Black Fire Desert, the Ice Wave Waters, and the Forest of 10,000 Beasts. Once violated, you will be eliminated by the rules of the Immortal Palace and will not be allowed to enter again. In these 3 areas, killing Black Fire Beasts, Fishmen, and Monster Beasts will randomly provide some energy to help you increase your cultivation. The specific amount of energy depends on your own strength and is not uniform." After a pause, the immortal continued to speak so that everyone could digest and remember it. "There are many spiritual herbs in the Forest of 10,000 Beasts. You can pick them according to your needs. After you pass through there and reach the entrance of the inner hall of the Immortal Palace, I will appear again and give you the next step. The training time for the first 3 areas is 1 year. Everyone should arrange the time reasonably and don't exceed the time. See you in a year." As soon as the voice fell, the immortal flew into the sky on a white crane, and then turned into a rain of light and disappeared. Only an ethereal voice slowly echoed in everyone's ears. The first level of the Xuanhao Desert is a random transmission. Everyone, be prepared and go in. As the lingering sound lingered, the forbidden door slowly opened, and a milky white halo diffused from it, attracting everyone to enter. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 944, Mysterious Fire Beast. In an immortal palace, there are deserts, waters, and forests. Such a scale is no different from a secret realm. Chen Qingyun couldn't help but think of the secluded immortal palace, which is not just an immortal palace. There are also swamps, forests, mountains and rivers, and the terrain is rich. Remembering what the immortal said, Chen Qingyun slightly concentrated his eyes and looked at the monks around him. From the appearance to the departure of the white crane immortal, it took only a dozen breaths and a few words. He simply explained the rules and floated away, making everyone feel that time is probably tight and there is no time to delay. Knowing the rules, Han Zixun didn't need to lead this time. Shui Gong Shuipo, Zhuang Suzi, Nangong Yuang and others quickly took off and flew into the forbidden door one by one, fearing that they would be a step behind. Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin looked at each other and followed without delay. After entering the forbidden gate, the fairy palace scrolls on everyone's bodies lit up again. Passing the second test. The scene in front of them changed, presenting a yellowish earthy landscape. The scorching heat swept over first, and a feeling of dryness came. What came into view was a vast desert, with a scorching sun hanging high above his head. Chen Qingyun looked around and found that he was alone. Yuzilin was no longer beside him and was teleported to another location. It seems that it is indeed as the White Crane Immortal said before. After entering here, you will be randomly teleported to various locations in the Xuanhao Desert. This is the same as the random teleportation rules of the Escape Immortal Mansion. which prevents people from fighting in teams and upgrading monsters on a large scale here. The desert under your feet is scorching hot. Mortals walking here will inevitably feel extremely hot and scalding, and monks will also be affected a little. Chen Qingyun has the Qingguang armor to protect his body, and he is not afraid of the high temperature here. He carefully looked at the surrounding terrain and found that there was no trace of people here. At a glance, there was only endless yellow sand. Chen Qingyun did not move around for the time being. He started to explore with his spiritual sense. His spiritual sense was blocked by the rules here and was compressed to a range of more than 10 feet. The spiritual sense did not work. Chen Qingyun tried to fly in the air again to see if he could quickly cross the desert. He found that there was a no-fly ban here, prohibiting cultivators from flying. This setting made cultivators have to walk through the desert. Not only is it a random teleportation, but even the spiritual sense is suppressed, and there is a no-fly ban. There are no landmark reference buildings here. It will take a while to find Zilan. Let's cross this desert first and see what those Xuanhao beasts are. Chen Qingyun was not worried about Liu Zilan's strength. For this trip, Liu Zilan had already refined a lot of 4th-level magic tools and talismans. As long as he did not encounter a Yuanying cultivator, he would definitely be able to come and go freely in the Jiandan period without being threatened. He tried the communication talisman on his body again, but it was also blocked and could not transmit any information. Chen Qingyun gathered his thoughts and began to walk forward, paying attention to the changes here. The Xuanhao Desert, Binglan Waters, and the Forest of 10,000 Beasts are all connected. All the cultivators are randomly teleported in and will land in the Xuanhao Desert. Then they will cross the desert, waters, and forests to reach the entrance to the inner hall of the Immortal Palace mentioned by the Immortal Elder. Following the direction determined by the sun, Chen Qingyun traveled a few miles and began to notice that there was something unusual under the desert. There was a rustling sound and the sand was visibly agitated. Before he could take a closer look, the next moment, a monster with fire all over its body suddenly rushed out from the ground, bringing up a gust of sand and soil, and launched a sneak attack on Chen Qingyun. Facing this sudden sneak attack, Chen Qingyun looked calm and noticed it one step earlier. He looked forward and guessed the origin of the other party. Xuanhao beast. This Xuanhao beast was about the size of a buffalo, bringing up a gust of hot sand and soil. Just when it was 5 or 6 meters in front of him, the burning feeling of the scorching flames on its body swept over. Middle Jiandan. Chen Qingyun sensed the strength of the Xuanhao beast, and simply raised his hand and shot out a stream of light to hit accurately. With a bang, the Xuanhao beast exploded and turned into stars of flames that scattered and fell. This scene happened in a flash, and the battle ended quickly. A ray of light flew out of the Xuanhao beast's body, only the size of a fist, and before Chen Qingyun refused, it took the initiative to merge into the body. A mysterious sense of power emerged spontaneously, filling the Yuanying. Chen Qingyun felt it carefully and found that this was the purest Yuanying power, which could increase cultivation. It was a very mysterious feeling. After killing this Xuanhao beast, his cultivation was improved a little, which was equivalent to the mana of a year of hard practice. It can improve cultivation. This is the Xuanhao beast. Chen Qingyun felt the improvement of mana, and a smile appeared on his face unconsciously. With such welfare treatment, this Xuanhao desert is a treasure land. With a bit of excitement, Chen Qingyun looked around to see if there were any more Xuanhao beasts hiding. The more the better. It was indeed as the immortal said. After killing the Xuanhao beast, you can get some energy to improve your cultivation. This time, killing a giant and middle stage Xuanhao beast gave you a year's worth of mana, so killing other Xuanhao beasts can also bring you such a gain. I think the energy you can get is different because of the different grades and strengths. Continuing to go deeper into the Xuanhao desert, you can still see endless yellow sand, and sandstorms blow from time to time. These sandstorms are also different from those in the mortal world, and each grain of sand is extremely sharp. Driven by the storm, it was no different from a sharp steel knife, easily cutting several layers of the sand. A lot of sand and dust covered the sky and hit the shield condensed by the Qingguang armor, making a series of ding-dong sounds. The power of this sandstorm was equivalent to that of the late Purple Mansion, and it could not pose any threat to Chen Qingyun, so he could directly cross it against the storm. When crossing the sandstorm for thousands of meters, 3 Xuanhao beasts suddenly appeared, encircling them in a triangular formation, riding the wind and suppressing them. Not only were the 3 Xuanhao beasts not affected by the sandstorm, but the flames on their bodies became more intense, and blazing flames spewed out of their mouths, making the surrounding space blurry and distorted. There were only 2 giant stage and 1 Xifu stage Xuanhao beasts, and Chen Qingyun looked normal, blocking the flame attack with Qingguang armor. Then, he simply performed the fireball technique and shot 3 fire bombs and turned to fight the 3 Xuanhao beasts. After 3 explosions, the 3 black fire beasts only appeared for 2 seconds and were also killed in one move. They turned into 3 rays of light and flew out, merging into Chen Qingyun's body. 1 year, 3 months. These 3 rays of light also brought energy, which increased Chen Qingyun's cultivation by another 2 years and 3 months. Chapter 945, Fishman, killing the Xuanhao beasts and gaining cultivation. This kind of improvement makes people feel very excited, and they wish they could do it more times. Killing 4 Xuanhao beasts. It is true that the Xuanhao beasts are of different grades, and the energy they can obtain is also different. The Purple Mansion period has much less. Having tasted the sweetness, Chen Qingyun kept moving forward. In order to attract the battle, he deliberately slowed down his pace to see if he could encounter more Xuanhao beasts. The release range of the divine consciousness is limited, and it seems that there are not many Xuanhao beasts here, which makes it difficult to find these creatures. It's really like looking for a needle in a haystack. How many Xuanhao beasts you can encounter depends on your personal chance. The vast desert is full of yellow sand, and a scorching sun hangs high, bringing scorching sunshine. The continuous high temperature makes the sand hot, and there is almost no vegetation here, and there are occasionally some quicksand areas. Chen Qingyun moved forward in a straight line and soon encountered some attacks from Xuanhao beasts. He easily resolved them and increased his cultivation. After several fights, Chen Qingyun figured out the abilities of these Xuanhao beasts. They either flew and bit, or attacked with fire, and the methods were relatively simple. Xuanhao beasts of this strength can only reach the late giant stage at most, which is a kind of good start and a benefit for the participants. Judging from this progress, these Xuanhao beasts are a good opportunity. There will be fishmen and monsters in the future, and they can also get such effects. Occasionally, he was lucky enough to see the Xuanhao beasts exposed and saw their figures from a distance. Chen Qingyun took the initiative to attack and receive these cultivation energy. Sometimes he used his body skills and sometimes walked on foot. He traveled more than 1,000 miles and walked for more than a month. During this period, Chen Qingyun only encountered 3 inner sea cultivators. Due to the rules of the Immortal Palace, Chen Qingyun did not take action and had no intention of killing people and stealing treasures. However, the 3 people, the strongest of whom was only in the early Yuanying stage, and the weakest was in the Xifu stage, when they saw Chen Qingyun, they avoided him from a distance and did not dare to approach. Compared with cultivators, the chance of encountering Xuanhao beasts here is higher, and everyone is more inclined to kill Xuanhao beasts to benefit themselves. This is only the first level, not a time for fighting and competing with each other. The opportunities behind are more attractive. About an hour later, Chen Qingyun passed through this Xuanhao desert. The temperature around was no longer so hot, and there was a wisp of salty and humid air in the air. Looking far away, the blue coastline appeared in the distance, and the sky became more blue and clear. That should be the Binglan waters. When he arrived here, there were no Xuanhao beasts. Chen Qingyun calculated that it took more than a month and killed a total of 16 Xuanhao beasts. The cultivation level has increased for 8 years, and most of the energy acquisition is random, some for 1 month, and some for 9 months. Different cultivators encounter different levels of Xuanhao beasts, and will not encounter those that are much higher than themselves. For example, Zaifu cultivators will not encounter Xuanhao beasts in the Jiandan period. The rules of the Immortal Palace will be observed to avoid situations where there is a huge disparity in strength. Chen Qingyun summarized and found that there seemed to be a rule to constrain. After killing more than 10 black fire beasts, the probability of the black fire beasts appearing later was greatly reduced. It took several days to encounter one, and it was still at the purple mansion level. This constraint made it impossible to increase cultivation by killing monsters here for a long time. You have to leave here and go to the Binglin waters behind. Before Chen Qingyun, Han Zhuxiantu, the big man surnamed Hong, and the leader of the Sea Alliance had already arrived at the Binglin waters. All three of them came here for the second time and knew the situation here well. These opportunities of black fire beasts were not so attractive to them. As long as the strength of the peak of the Natan soul is not broken through to the God transformation stage, no matter how much it is improved, there will not be much change. After walking through the last section of the desert area, Chen Qingyun came to the waters. This is a blue sea with some iceberg floating islands floating on the sea. The temperature has reached below zero, as if entering the quiet and cold Antarctic. Divine consciousness also does not work here, and a no-fly zone has been set up, so flying is not an option to cross this area of water. Chen Qingyun wandered around the water for a while, but did not see any fishmen in it, and even a fish could not be seen in the water. Silence, coldness, and overlapping water and ice. This is the first impression when you come here. According to the rules of the Immortal Palace, the Xuanhao beast appeared in the Xuanhao desert, so could there be fishmen in this Binglin water area? Chen Qingyun thought about it, released the sea god, and 3 purple mansion clones fell into this area of water to open the way and explored. Then he used the wind and thunder boat to jump up and change to traveling by water. The reason why this Binglin water area has this name is because it contains rich ores of ice and water. Cultivators who practice these 2 attributes can gain some advantages here. After entering this area of water, the cold and high humidity are very intuitive, and they are getting stronger and stronger. It looks quiet underwater, and there seems to be no shadow of any living creatures. After traveling for about an instant's stick of time, a figure swam quickly underwater and attacked the wind and thunder boat. The sea god's clone had already discovered the existence of the other party. It was a humanoid creature wearing golden armor and having a long golden tail. Compared with the mermaid, the image of the fishman appeared to be more sturdy and full of power. At this time, the fishman held a golden fork in his hand, and his body was very agile. He jumped out of the water with a splash and swung the golden fork to stab Chen Qingyun. It was a very simple attack, showing the power of the late Jiandan period. With a clang, Chen Qingyun easily blocked the stab with his shield light, and shook the fishman away. The fishman fell into the water with a puff, a little dizzy, and prepared to adjust his body to attack again. A stream of water condensed into a water blue sword under the control of the Yuanying magic power. It was very fast and cut off the fishman's head with a puff. The fishman fell into the water, and his whole body turned into a stream of water and dissipated. A stream of water blue light flew out of it and accurately merged into Chen Qingyun's body. Chen Qingyun felt it carefully and smiled. 3 years of magic power. Compared with the Xuanhao beast, the reward given by this late Jiandan fishman is very good, exceeding the Xuanhao beast of the same level. Looking at this situation, does it mean that the further you go, the richer the rewards will be? After killing the first fishman, Chen Qingyun slowed down his pace and noticed that there were still some unusual movements around him. Then, the sea god's clone discovered that 5 fishmen were coming together a few hundred meters away to the east. The fishmen in this water area are like the black fire beasts. They are transformed by the rules of the Immortal Palace and can observe the traces of cultivators within 10,000 meters around them, and then take the initiative to attack. 5 fishmen, just in time. Chapter 946. Qinyan Valley. When he encountered the attack of the fishmen again, There were still 5 of them. Chen Qingyun smiled slightly and wanted to accept this opportunity that was delivered to him. The sea god clone deliberately hid his body in the water so that the 5 fishmen could swim to the vicinity of the wind and thunder boat so that he could kill them and get their reward. Among the 5 fishmen, there was one in the early stage of the golden core, and the other 4 were in the purple mansion stage. If a purple mansion cultivator encountered such a lineup, he would probably just be beaten and run away. Unfortunately, in front of Chen Qingyun, this was no different from offering his life. This time, the sea god clone used the ice soul trident, and the 9 frost swords condensed into shape and fell into the water at a high speed. Under the cover of the sea water, they almost merged with the surroundings. Each of the 5 fishmen was locked by a frost sword. They were very sensitive underwater, and they immediately slowed down their bodies and waved the golden fork in their hands to resist. However, with such a huge difference in power, this move was useless. After just one encounter, the frost sword killed the 5 fishmen, and 5 streams of light flew out of the water. After Chen Qingyun absorbed these streams of light, he found that his mana had increased by another 5 years and 2 months. This way of quickly improving cultivation is much more convenient than practicing in seclusion. No wonder this outer fairy palace can be called the first secret realm in the inner sea. Just this kind of killing reward is enough to attract cultivators from all sides to come here for training. Those purple mansion and golden elixir cultivators, with the increased mana, are more likely to break through the realm. After completing the second kill, Chen Qingyun continued to move forward, and the wind and thunder boat traveled at a constant speed on this blue water. The 5 clones were distributed around, mastering the range of a kilometer radius, paying attention to any water flow and fluctuations. The number of iceberg floating islands around gradually increased, and occasionally fishmen were entrenched on them, revealing their figures. Chen Qingyun took the initiative to attack, basically defeating the enemy with one move, and quickly obtained the reward. It must be said that as the external incarnation of the 5 elements, the several avatars of the sea god can absorb the water-attributed spiritual energy here to restore their mana, and they take turns to fight, which is equivalent to having endless mana. Chen Qingyun restrained his cultivation aura and did not release more avatars at the same time. It is better to be low-key and hide his strength. After all, there are other cultivators coming and going here, which is easy to expose. The bottom card. In the following dozen miles, everything was calm and no fishmen appeared for the time being. It was not until more than half an hour after driving that Chen Qingyun noticed that there were waves of movement in the northern area. A red-robed cultivator was driving a green leaf-flying boat, sailing at high speed on the water. In the waters behind this person, there were ripples flowing rapidly, leaving watermarks. Looking at this situation, it is obvious that something is moving rapidly underwater. It seems that the 2 sides are in a situation of chasing each other. Chen Qingyun's expression moved, and under the hidden exploration of a purple mansion avatar, he found that it was 4 fishmen. The man who was running away had a calm look on his face. Coincidentally, he was driving towards him at a high speed. Looking at his expression, he didn't look anxious or panicked when facing a crisis. Chen Qingyun narrowed his eyes and didn't change the direction of driving. Instead, he wanted to see what this man was going to do. "Deu, please give me a hand." As if he had grabbed a life-saving straw, the red-robed monk was delighted and drove towards Chen Qingyun at a high speed. His shout was very clear. "I am the elder of Qingyun Valley. I will reward you handsomely after this." When he said this, a cunning look flashed in the man's eyes, and he glanced at the 4 fishmen chasing behind him. With 4 clones to assist in the investigation, how could such a small move of the other party be hidden from Chen Qingyun's eyes? He didn't kill the fishmen, but led them to run here. This was a deliberate targeting. Looking for loopholes to kill people by borrowing a knife and disgust other cultivators? After all, anyone with a discerning eye can see that the speed of the fishmen is not as fast as the opponent's escape speed. If he really wants to get rid of the pursuit, why bother to continue to deal with it deliberately? Chen Qingyun remained calm and watched the other party coming, without any intention of taking action immediately. The red-robed man who claimed to be from Qingyun Valley saw this and crossed the line without caring whether Chen Qingyun was willing to help or not. Judging from the opponent's aura, it was revealed that he was in the late Jiandan stage. This was a hidden performance, and his real cultivation had reached the peak of Jiandan. Looking at the four fishmen again, they were all in the Jiandan stage. Chen Qingyun did not dodge and let the man approach. Constrained by the rules of the Immortal Palace, no matter how brave this person was, he did not dare to kill people and rob treasures directly, and could only use such a trick. If he really wanted to break the rules and take action, Chen Qingyun would not show mercy. While he was observing, the four fishmen surrounded him and stupidly ignored the red-robed man first, and instead attacked Chen Qingyun. Chen Qingyun was no longer passive, and the sea god clone in the sea suddenly took action. He did not need to use magic treasures, but simply performed water magic to condense a large water net. The large net gathered in the water, immediately wrapped up the four fishmen, and then closed up. These fishmen were bound in the net, struggling to break the net. Then, under the control of the sea god clone, they were lifted out of the water. Chen Qingyun glanced at the fishmen in the net, and the sea god clone cast a spell to tighten the large net. The net lines turned into sharp ice blades, tightening and cutting the four fishmen, ending the battle. As the net unfolded, the fishmen inside it had turned into flowing water and dissipated. Four streams of light flowed in the air, flew over and merged into Chen Qingyun's body. This battle lasted only 2 or 3 breaths, and the man's eyes widened, realizing that he had made a mistake. To be able to wipe out 4 Jiandan stage fishmen so easily, this strength has exceeded his expectations. At this time, he sensed the nascent soul aura revealed by the sea god's clone. Looking at the 4 streams of light again, they merged into Chen Qingyun's body, and he didn't understand what this meant. Puppet, it's definitely a puppet. This man actually has a 5th level puppet. The man was shocked, and he felt his head buzzing. He reacted quickly and said nervously, "Thank you. Thank you for saving my life, Senior." Because he was scared, his tone became hesitant, and cold sweat was faintly visible on his forehead. I wanted to use the fishman to get rid of Chen Qingyun and get both treasures and mana. 2 days ago, I happened to see 2 fishmen destroy a purple mansion cultivator. I waited for them and got the other party's storage bag, which was a good thing. After tasting the sweetness, I soon became bold and came up with this idea. But I didn't expect that I would hit a wall this time and provoke a yawning old monster. This time, I really shot myself in the foot. Chapter 947, Forest of Beasts. The red-robed man regretted his decision at this moment, thinking about the puppet of the nascent soul level that had attacked him before. He definitely could not afford to provoke him. This made the man complain in his heart and said secretly, "Who is this person? Why didn't he show his aura before? Why did he have to act so low-key? Damn it. If it weren't for the rules of the Immortal Palace as a constraint, how could I have survived?" Looking at Chen Qingyun, the sea god's clone, the red-robed man forced himself to suppress the panic in his heart and lowered his posture as much as possible to avoid offending again. At this moment, Chen Qingyun's expression could not show joy or anger, and his cultivation level increased by almost 12 years. The sea god's clone stood on the water and looked at the man with an extremely cold expression. "Senior, I was attacked by those fishmen just now. I found you were active here in a hurry, so I came to you rashly to save you. Senior, I have no ill intentions. Thank you for your help." Being stared at by the sea god's clone and Chen Qingyun at the same time, the man felt like he was being stared at by a beast, and he took a small step back in fear. This small action is enough to show that this person is guilty. The light in Chen Qingyun's eyes flashed a few times, and it can be seen that this person is not from the mainland. This Qingyun Valley is a sect on the other side of the Misty Blood Sea. In terms of strength, it is claimed to be a Jiandan sect, which is characterized by the use of Qin-type magic instruments and is good at performing sound wave attacks to confuse people. Before Chen Qingyun could say anything, the man bowed his hands and acted politely. "Senior, I am sorry for disturbing you. I will definitely reward you handsomely after we get out of this fairy palace." After saying that, the man did not dare to stay for a moment, and immediately turned around and left on the water in his flying boat, to stay away from Chen Qingyun, the old monster. This whole action was like a mouse seeing a cat, running as fast as it could. Chen Qingyun frowned slightly, and had no intention of chasing. It was not easy to take action here for the time being, but it did not mean that there would be fairy palace rules and regulations in the inner hall of the fairy palace or in the outside world. This person asked for trouble and wanted to kill someone with a borrowed knife, so don't blame me for being ruthless. Remembering the other party's appearance and breath, Chen Qingyun continued to move forward. About 2 months later, the land coastline appeared in the distance, and this piece of ice and blue waters had crossed the border. In the past 2 months, a total of 17 fishmen were killed, and the cultivation obtained was not bad. A total of 32 years of cultivation were added. The rewards brought by these fishmen were also random. Approaching the land coastline, a forest landform can be seen in front. Chen Qingyun was about to land when he noticed a huge wave of water in the water not far away, brewing a wave. The sea god clone took the lead and took a closer look. In the place where the water waved, there was a sturdy fishman who had reached the nascent soul level, moving in the water and launched an attack. These fishmen came and went in the water without a trace, and they were transformed by the rules of the Immortal Palace. They could be refreshed and reappeared in a cycle. Fishmen in the nascent soul stage can cast spells and absorb the power of ice and water on the spot to restore their mana. Unfortunately, in front of Chen Qingyun, the fishmen who were only in the early stage of the nascent soul were no match at all. The surging waves condensed and turned into a size of 100 feet, and fiercely covered the direction of the wind and thunder boat. This momentum and movement were not small, attracting the attention of several monks around to see what happened. When they sensed the mighty aura of the waves, they actually reached the middle stage of the nascent soul, and their expressions suddenly changed. Yuan, Ying period fishmen. These 3 cultivators, whose highest cultivation level was no more than the peak of Jindan, realized that they could not be involved in this battle, and immediately fled away. Chen Qingyun stood on the wind and thunder boat, letting the waves sweep over him, looking at the direction where the fishman was attacking. This water playing in front of him, then it depends on who is stronger and who is weaker. When the wave approached him, less than 3 meters away, a water wall rose from the ground, forming a defensive barrier, protecting the front of the wind and thunder boat. The sea god controlled the ice soul trident, exerted the power of water, and easily blocked the wave attack. At the same time, a water tornado was brewing in the water, locking the fishman. No matter how strong this fishman is, his skills in the water are still not as good as the sea god's clone. He was hit by the water tornado and was brought out of the water. The powerful tearing force of the water flow first flew the golden fork in its hand, and then more than a dozen frost swords condensed and pierced into the water tornado from all directions. The fishman unfolded the water shield and tried to protect himself, but unfortunately, with the disparity in strength, it was enough to win with only the sea god's clone. More than a dozen frost swords pierced the body of the fishman and ended the battle. After killing the fishman, a dazzling stream of light flew out and fell on Chen Qingyun. After absorbing this power, Chen Qingyun gained 10 years of mana. This is also the most reward obtained in this Pinglan water area. At the same time, the battle ended. The monks who were still fleeing in the distance noticed that the battle had subsided, and then looked at Chen Qingyun standing on the water, with a strong fear on their faces. The fishman was killed so quickly. These Yuanying old monsters are really not easy to deal with. A day later, the wind and thunder boat finally arrived at the shore. This time, crossing the icy waters, a total of 42 years of cultivation were gained. Chen Qingyun put away several avatars of the sea god, and stepped onto the shore in the wind and thunder boat. Arriving at the forest of 10,000 beasts, there were traces of cultivators landing here, leaving some footprints. Chen Qingyun recalled what the immortal said, that he could pick some spiritual herbs and medicines here, which made Chen Qingyun look forward to it. What grade would the spiritual medicine born in the fairy palace outside the domain be? It is estimated that there are many spiritual medicines that are very rare in the eyes of the outside world. The entire forest covers a huge area, which is the sum of the area of the Xuanhao Desert and the Binglan waters. There are also restrictions to suppress spiritual consciousness and prohibit the existence of the sky. Chen Qingyun entered this forest, and a faint white mist began to diffuse around him, surrounding the mountains and forests. At first, these white mists did not have any effect on the cultivators, but only played a role in covering the site. After going 400 or 500 meters deep into it, miasma began to appear in the mist, and it became very dense. The power of these miasma is enough to kill giant cultivators, and it also has some damage to Yuanying cultivators. After inhaling it, you need to cast a spell to dissolve it, which consumes mana. In this case, if you encounter a monster attack again, your combat effectiveness will inevitably be affected. In the past, some cultivators prepared 5th-level detoxification pills and magical instruments to dissolve toxins early to help them pass through this miasma area. Chen Qingyun dissolved the miasma in his body, looked around, and opened the blessed land bead. There was only a buzzing sound of spirit insects flapping their wings, and pieces of black clouds suddenly flew out of the gem, and turned into a tide and surged forward. Chapter 948, The Heart of Treasure Hunting. Like the escaped Immortal Palace, small spiritual insects are not affected by the air restrictions and can fly freely in this extraterrestrial fairy palace. When the blessed land bead was opened, large swaths of six-winged miasma cloud bees surged out, forming black clouds, and began to devour these miasma poisons crazily. After being cultivated by feeding green yuan fruit, the number of six-winged miasma cloud bees increased rapidly. As of now, the number has reached 150,000, and the number is still growing. With extremely strong fecundity. This six-winged miasma cloud bee has the natural talent to restrain miasma poison and turn it into its own use. As soon as it appeared, in just a few seconds, the surrounding white mist miasma was swallowed up in a large area, revealing the originally obscured scenery. At the same time, Chen Qingyun was 10,000 meters away. Liu Zilin was moving in the poisonous miasma, using a blue orb to release a hazy blue light curtain to wrap around her body, blocking all the invading poisonous miasma. As a weapon refiner, Liu Zilin had several of these magical weapons to deal with miasma poisons. She also gave Chen Qingyun one of these top-grade 4th-grade green fire beads to defend against poison attacks. At this moment, the surface of the green firefly bead reflected the surrounding mountains, forests and sky, like a round mirror, blocking out the surrounding poisonous miasma. Liu Zilin was very fond of Chen Qingyun and cultivated hundreds of thousands of six-winged miasma cloud bees. How could this kind of miasma be effective on Chen Qingyun? Instead, it became the food for cultivating the six-winged miasma cloud bee, and was devoured in large quantities. Here, Liu Zilin quickly discovered something as he continued to consume a small amount of mana and used the green fireflies to resist the miasma. What is this sound? She heard a buzzing sound beside her, about 100 meters away, which seemed to be caused by some kind of spiritual insect moving in groups. At the same time, in the direction where the sound came from, the poisonous miasma there was dissipating in large quantities and being absorbed in one direction. It looked like it was being swallowed by some kind of power. Liu Zilin was shocked when she saw clearly the appearance of a group of six-winged miasma cloud bees, and a look of surprise suddenly appeared on her face. Qingyun. On the outskirts of the 10,000 Beasts Forest, in the poisonous miasma area, Chen Qingyun commanded the six-winged miasma cloud bees to eat on a large scale. Through the eyesight of the little guys, they were very keenly aware of the surrounding dynamics and found Liu Zilin. The two finally met, rushed to each other, and met here. Seeing that Liu Zilin was safe and had come here safely, Chen Qingyun secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Immediately afterwards, Chen Qingyun controlled 3 groups of six-winged miasma cloud bees to separate and form a defensive circle around Liu Zilin, swallowing up all the nearby miasma poisons without leaving any trace behind. Liu Zilin was very familiar with this six-winged miasma cloud bee. When the little ones saw Liu Zilin, they not only did not reject her, but also showed closeness to her, knowing that she was also one of the masters and as important as Chen Qingyun. In this way, the two of them moved forward, eliminating all the miasma and poison wherever they passed. increasing the strength of the bee swarm. Chen Qingyun could clearly feel that the little guys were very excited at this moment. Their energy and blood had reached a peak, and a lot of miasma had accumulated in their bodies. These miasma poisons can be used by little guys. After digesting part of them, the remaining ones can be released against enemies to have a poisoning effect. In just 1 or 2 hours, there were already monks active around, also dealing with these miasma mist. Among them, Duke Shui and Lady Shui noticed what was going on here from a distance, and recognized the six-winged miasma cloud bee, with surprise in their eyes. Six-winged, miasma cloud bees of this size do not appear to be wildly bred. Which fellow Taoist is actually cultivating such ancient spiritual insects? Chen Zandao, who could not take his eyes off Shuipo, was even more surprised when he saw Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin appearing. It's them. Being bound by rules and sensing the aura of cultivation released by Chen Qingyun, who had already reached the nascent soul stage, how could Shuipo take action here? She gave Chen Qingyun a deep look. Old lady, the intuition this child gave me is not simple, don't mess with it. The waterman spoke openly, showing a solemn expression. A nascent soul cultivator at such a young age must have expert guidance behind him. This inner sea immortal realm has always been a crouching tiger, hidden a dragon. This person is probably related to those old monsters like Xingzun. Shui Po nodded seriously, and took the initiative to retreat with Shui Gong, widening the distance between Chen Qingyun and Chen Qingyun. On this day, not only Shui Gong and Shui Po, but also King Zhu Lao Taoist and the other 3 people also paid attention to this scene, and took the initiative to come closer and look at the spirit bee swarm with great interest. They are also well informed and recognize many treasures, strange insects and beasts. Grandma Sanhua recognized the origin of the six-winged miasma cloud bee at a glance, and couldn't help but murmured, the monks participating this time are really secretive. Even the six-winged miasma cloud bee has begun to appear. Isn't this kind of ancient spiritual insect only found in the Bing's insect? It is in the hands of the Bingzin fairy. What is the relationship between this person and the Bingzin fairy? As soon as Granny Sanhua finished speaking, the old Taoist King Zhu beside her said, Fairy Bingzin has an arrogant temperament. She has only 5 or 6 disciples, and none of them has used the six-winged miasma cloud bee, so she must have not passed down this skill. I don't think this person looks like a spiritual realm monk. I think he comes from the inner sea realm of immortality. Upon hearing this, Granny Sanhua nodded and said, even if he is not a spiritual realm monk, he must have some connection with Fairy Bingzin. Fairy Bingzin once had something to do with us and almost killed our longer. Right now, if I can kill this person, I can also cut off one of her wings and damage her prestige. King Zhu Lao Deoxu narrowed his eyes, nodded slowly, and said, the six-winged miasma cloud bee and the six-winged frost centipede are both ancient spiritual beasts. Now they will appear in the same place. What a great opportunity for these monks. As long as we successfully capture this person, these precious spiritual insects will be our chance. If we find a way to exchange for some insect control classics from Hongdahan, it will not be difficult to cultivate them. King Zhu Lao Tao said with some emotion. He already had great interest in killing people, grabbing treasures, and capturing these spiritual insects. Compared with the six-winged frost centipede, this six-winged miasma cloud bee has 6 wings, but it can eat a nascent soul monk alive as a single combatant. The other one is good at group combat and has the advantages of restraining miasma poison, fast speed and large numbers. This six-winged frost centipede is the ancestral treasure of the beast control sect. After thousands of years of cultivation, only 3 or 4 of them have been cultivated, and only the upper echelons of the sect can have access to them. This kind of opportunity is definitely difficult to reach and will offend the entire beast control sect. As for the six-winged miasma cloud bee, it is not such a big threat. An inland sea cultivator in the late nascent soul stage, so what if he turned the world upside down? He was not a great figure on the mainland. While old Taoist King Zhu was thinking about it, a strong look of greed flashed through his eyes. He whispered a few words to Grandma Sanhua, and prepared to endure it until he got to the inner palace of the Immortal Palace before looking for an opportunity to take action. The two of them were very confident that with their peak nascent soul strength, they only needed to dispatch one person to defeat Chen Qingyun. Chapter 949 Nine-Bearded Spiritual Ginseng. HMPH. Aren't these just a group of six-winged miasma cloud bees? There's nothing strange about them. The spiritual pets in my hands are no less impressive than them. The girl who was in a protected state and covered under a gilt umbrella said, curling her lips to herself, with a look of pride on her face. When the time comes, you take action and save that person's life first. My spiritual pet hasn't eaten anyone for a long time. This time I will give it to Zhuxiantu for a change. As for those swarms of bees, I'm not interested. I don't want to breed them. They're all so ugly. As soon as the girl finished speaking, a small silver-white snake crawled out from her sleeve, wrapped around her wrist, spitting out a snake message, and behaved intimately with the girl. This made the girl smile, stretched out her finger, and gently touched the snake's head. After listening to her granddaughter's words, Granny Sanhua, instead of criticizing her or saying anything that shouldn't be done, she smiled lovingly. Okay, listen to you, as long as you are happy, let alone this one person, even if you ask for hundreds or thousands of people, I will still satisfy you. The old Taoist King Zhou on the side glanced at the silver-white snake. Out of his love for the six-winged miasma cloud bee, he still said with a little emotion, this cannot be compared like this. The spiritual beasts are different. It mainly depends on how to control them. In this fairy palace, the six-winged miasma cloud wasps are like a fish in water. They can easily resolve these miasma poisons. You have also seen their abilities. Let's just say that the effect of this golden neon umbrella is only to block poisonous miasma, and its effect is far inferior to that of the six-winged miasma cloud bee. You have been pampered too much by us over the years. Now you feel that everything you look at is not pleasing to your eyes. You have too high standards. When the elder said this, the girl not only refused to listen, but instead raised her head and said somewhat smugly, so what? Looking back to Chen Qingyun, the six-winged miasma cloud bee performed very well in restraining the poisonous miasma this time. The entire area covered by the poisonous miasma is 30 miles away and belongs to the peripheral area of the 10,000 Beasts Forest. After passing through this poisonous miasma area, the view ahead became clear, and a large number of towering ancient trees and dense vegetation appeared, presenting a lush scene. The Forest of 10,000 Beasts has this name, indicating that there are many monsters here. After killing them, you will gain energy and improve your cultivation. According to what the immortal said, you can also pick spiritual herbs and elixirs here. As for how much you can get, it all depends on your luck. Chen Qingyun slowed down, put away the six-winged miasma cloud bee, and explored the surrounding area with his eyes. At the same time, 30 clones escaped underground, scattered around, and carefully explored the surroundings. Liu Zilin followed Chen Qingyun and activated a talisman, from which 12 fluffy little rabbits jumped and scattered around. This is a kind of detecting spirit-like talisman, called the Spirit Rabbit Talisman. The caster can achieve the effect of sharing hearing, vision, smell, and touch according to the illusory spirit rabbit released, so as to carefully explore the surrounding environment. Both of them used their own unique tricks and began to search for the elixir growing here. Soon, Chen Qingyun made a discovery. 8 or 9 miles away from me, in a dense forest, there appeared a total of 12 4th-level elixir green leaf daffodils. This green leaf daffodil is very rare in the inner sea. If taken directly, it can be used to repair the soul and strengthen the qi and blood. It has a miraculous effect on the golden elixir monks. At the same time, it is also the main medicinal material for refining the 4th-level elixir Yunshengdan, which can assist the golden elixir monks in breaking through the realm. These green leaf narcissus flowers are now growing in a spiritual land, and are guarded by a 4th-level monster beast. The monster had a strange appearance, resembling a black bear, but with a long trunk, like an elephant's trunk. Elephantus. Chen Qingyun was well informed and recognized the origin of the monster. So he took Liu Zilin and set off there. The process of picking these green leaf daffodils was very easy. The ice and chain blade clones acted at the same time and won in less than 3 rounds. For the final blow, Chen Qingyun let Liu Zilin take action. After killing this monster, the rewarded energy allowed Liu Zilin to increase her cultivation level by 2 years. Including what Liu Zilin had obtained in the Xuanhao Desert and the Binglan waters. A total of 21 years of cultivation had been gained. After picking these green leaf daffodils, the two went to another area, which was a waterhole. At the bottom of the pool, a water spiritual fruit called the dream fruit was born. This fruit has the effect of resolving hundreds of poisons. It is known as the nemesis of poisons in the world. You only need to take the fruit essence to be immune to all poisons. It is the best herb for refining high-level detoxification pills. There are a total of 3 dream fruits, guarded by a group of blue-eyed crocodiles. Their strength ranges from the early stage of foundation building to the middle stage of Zaifu, and their number is 22. When the two arrived here, a monk had already arrived 1 step ahead. This person was a mainland monk, a woman who looked to be in her 30s. When she saw Chen Qingyun and 2 people coming this way, the goddess looked fierce and summoned a tiger-shaped spiritual beast, hoping to intimidate the 2 of them. However, relying on his cultivation in the later stage of the Golden Core, the spiritual beasts in the early stage of the Golden Core could not act as a deterrent in front of Liu Zilin. Let alone facing Chen Qingyun. He is not a person of the same magnitude. Chen Qingyun showed a little aura and reached the early stage of nascent soul. When the woman sensed it carefully, her beauty immediately turned pale, and she made a move as if she was giving away her love and treasure, and said, "I don't want this thing anymore, so I'll give it to you." As soon as the voice fell, the woman rode away on the spirit beast, fearing that Chen Qingyun would make a threatening move and ask for something more. Chen Qingyun did not chase, and let the other party leave. After clearing the blue-eyed crocodiles here, Chen Qingyun and the other party divided the rewards here equally and picked the dream fruit. In the next 10 days, the two worked together to pick the spiritual medicines that could be seen here, and harvested more than a dozen kinds of spiritual medicines. When passing through a valley, they also encountered the rare 8-leaf black ice grass, which reached the 5th level and could help the nascent soul cultivators to quickly restore their mana. When they passed through most of the 10,000 beasts forest, the two made another discovery. This time, they encountered a more rare spiritual medicine. This medicine grows underground and is surrounded by many spiritual ginseng plants like stars and moons. It has 9 roots and is ginger-colored. If you don't look at those roots, it really looks a bit like ginger. Chen Qingyun discovered this strange spiritual ginseng through a clone's underground escape. His eyes lit up and a look of surprise appeared on his face. 9-bearded, spiritual ginseng. A word emerged in Chen Qingyun's mind. According to the 5 elements sex records of wonderful things, the 9-bearded spiritual ginseng can assist late-stage nascent soul cultivators to advance, with a 50% chance of breaking through to the peak of the nascent soul. If a giant cultivator takes it, he can directly advance to a small realm. The previous Han Zixun took a 9-bearded spiritual ginseng and broke through to the peak of the nascent soul in one fell swoop. With such a successful example in front of him, Chen Qingyun was determined to get this 9-bearded spiritual ginseng. Chapter 950 Uninvited Guests. After careful investigation by Han Bing's clone, Chen Qingyun found that this 9-bearded spiritual ginseng had reached maturity and could be taken directly. Because this 9-bearded spiritual ginseng has a little intelligence, it is somewhat similar to a spiritual beast. It is very good at hiding and hides among a group of spiritual ginsengs. If there were no clones exploring underground and noticing the area where the spiritual ginsengs gathered, it would not have been found. Moreover, after exposing its whereabouts, this 9-bearded spiritual ginseng sensed the movement around it and immediately ran towards the ground, trying to escape from this area. Chen Qingyun ordered the clones to disperse and ambush, and informed Liu Zilin of this discovery. 9-bearded, spiritual ginseng. Liu Zilin heard this and couldn't help but look happy. Great, with this spiritual ginseng, you have a great hope of breaking through the peak of the nascent soul. We must capture it. Yes. The opportunity cannot be missed. Chen Qingyun smiled slightly, took out a few formation flags, looked in the direction where the nine-bearded spiritual ginseng escaped, and threw the formation flags in his hand. The nine-bearded spiritual ginseng originally belongs to the wood attribute, and can run, jump, and burrow underground. If you want to capture it, it is best to use a metallic substance. As a formation master, Chen Qingyun already has some formation collections on him. In order to prepare for this trip this time, he had already prepared more than a dozen second-level and third-level formations, in order to capture some special spiritual medicines, to prepare for a rainy day. This time, he just happened to encounter this opportunity, and he had 3 sets of metallic formations on him, so how could he miss it? 6 formation flags turned into streams of light and fell down. As Chen Qingyun pinched his hands, a ray of light rose from each of the formation flags, and a set of metallic formations was arranged on the spot. Large areas of formation barriers are connected and combined with formation flags as nodes. In just 2 breaths, within a radius of 1 kilometer, a formation rose from the ground and blocked this area. This formation is called the Golden Wall Soul Locking Formation, and the effect is very simple, which is used to block the enemy. According to the rule of mutual generation and mutual restraint of the 5 elements, this formation has a restraining effect on creatures of wood attributes, especially wood attributes. The nine-bearded ginseng was running away with 9 roots, like a squirrel with legs, and its speed was no less than that of a flying cat. However, no matter how fast it was, when it reached the barrier of the formation, it was blocked with a bang and swayed dizzily in place for a few times. This thing knocked itself dizzy, with stars in its eyes and unable to tell the direction, which was quite funny. Then the little guy recovered and was ready to run again, but a big net covered his head. At the critical moment, Liu Zilin saw the opportunity and used a net-like magic weapon to restrain the nine-bearded ginseng. The little guy was covered by the big net and tried to break free, but was still firmly pressed on the ground and became passive. Even the ground covered by the big net was covered by the power of the formation and turned into a golden barrier. With the golden wall soul locking array and the golden wire net, this nine-bearded spiritual ginseng can't escape. Liu Zilin stretched out her hand, and the golden wire net tightly wrapped the nine-bearded spiritual ginseng, turning into a golden ball and flying over, landing in her hand. "I caught you." Although the nine-bearded spiritual ginseng was also attractive to Liu Zilin, it could be used to impact the peak of the golden elixir, and there would be some spiritual ginseng left. But she was more inclined to give it to Chen Qingyun. So she turned her eyes and looked at Chen Qingyun, blinking mischievously. Chen Qingyun understood what Liu Zilin meant, smiled, and was about to accept it. At this time, Chen Qingyun suddenly raised his eyebrows again. After taking the golden wire net, he and Liu Zilin had a telepathic connection and looked in the same direction. A yellow figure was seen passing through the array barrier 100 meters ahead, approaching this side quickly. He was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 50s, with a square face, wearing a 9-headed dragon robe and black and gold magic boots. At first glance, this person was dressed very beautifully and gorgeously, showing a noble and graceful aura. He was walking over with a smile on his face, and there was a furry mouse standing on his left shoulder. Such a person, at first glance, would make people feel that this person has a good origin, must have grown up with a golden key, and is not a small character. At this time, judging from the aura that the other party deliberately revealed, it is indeed not to be underestimated, and has reached the late stage of the nascent soul. With such strength, it can easily pass through the obstruction of the golden wall soul locking array without being affected at all. At this moment, Chen Qingyun and Liu Zilin had some guesses at the same time, looking at each other firmly, and then glanced at the black mouse. The mouse looked quite strange, with a pair of big ears, green eyes, a nose much longer than ordinary mice, and relatively short limbs. Such a prominent feature reminded Chen Qingyun of a rare spiritual beast, gold-seeking rat, which can sense natural treasures and has the innate ability to seek treasure and pan for gold. Both of them recognized the gold-seeking rat at this moment, and guessed that this person came here at this time, uninvited, and was probably not with good intentions. This is 9 out of 10. It is this gold-seeking rat that sensed the nine-bearded spiritual ginseng and brought this person here. Oh, there really is a spiritual object of heaven and earth in the world. I didn't expect that there's a spiritual object of heaven and earth like the nine-bearded spiritual ginseng here. It's really unexpected. The man in yellow said in surprise. His eyes fell directly on the nine-bearded spiritual ginseng, recognized the origin of this thing, and did not hide the greed on his face. This look was just like a monster who had seen Tang Monk's flesh, and he was just about to catch him with his eyes shining and drooling. Chen Qingyun held the spiritual ginseng in his hand, stepped forward, and protected Liu Zilin, and asked the man in yellow, "You have trespassed into the formation I set up without permission. What is your intention?" This question was cold, which made the yellow-clothed man smile, but he didn't mean to answer in a hurry. He stretched out his fingers slowly and teased the gold-seeking rat on his shoulder, and then looked at Chen Qingyun with interest. It's rare, you have the cultivation of the late nascent soul at such a young age. I think there is a family or sect behind you to support you." The man's tone was inquiring, and he didn't worry about exposing his own spiritual beast at all. He let the gold-seeking rat stand on his shoulder and asked with a smile, "I don't know which lineage you come from. Maybe I know your ancestors. You might as well tell me." This question has a condescending tone, like the performance of an elder when he sees a younger generation. This is obviously to find out Chen Qingyun's background and see if he is easy to provoke. If he doesn't have a big background and is a casual cultivator, then he can only pray for good luck. After hearing this, Liu Zilin and Chen Qingyun moved closer to each other. They could hear the meaning of each other's words and were ready to take action. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.